Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto become a fairy fox of fairy tale. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. It was over. Finally, this horrible and meaningless bloodshed had come to an end, the end of the Fourth Great Ninja War. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze had done what he had set out to do, and that was bringing Madara Uchiha down. The battle had been long and hard, especially since Madara had the aid of the six paths of pain, whose bodies were the former Jinchuriki that the Akatsuki had killed. That was the second time he had faced them. The first time he had been forced to retreat, but due to the fight he awoke the one thing that turned the tide of the war, the Rinnegan. When the Kages saw him, they were shocked, to say the least, that they took him away to a new secret location along with some of their top jonin to help train the Uzumaki. When Naruto's chakra signature disappeared from the land, Madara decided that he wouldn't bother with the other shinobi and instead opted to go and train Sasuke. For 2 years the fighting ceased, and the Shinobi Alliance took the time to come up with some new plans on how to stop the Uchihas, the Zetsu army, and Kabuto. Then all of the sudden one day they returned and the war began all over again. However, this time things were different, as they were coming with all they had. The giant Gedo Mazo began tearing the land apart, followed by the White Zetsu army and more undead shinobi brought back to life with the Edo Tensei. However, along with them came the Uchihas, whom together began to destroy every person that stood before them. That is until Naruto arrived at the battlefield with new level of jutsus. He alone decimated a large amount of the opposing army. He went as far as damaging the Gedo Mazo, forcing Madara to retreat. After he left with the statue, Sasuke started his fight against Naruto. For the few beginning moves he had the advantage, but it all came crashing down when Killer Bee joined the battle. The three fought hard and long until Sasuke incapacitated Bee. However, the distraction cost him, as Naruto came from behind and using some new kind of fuinjutsu he ripped Sasuke's soul out of his body and it was sealed into Naruto. The sealing took a lot out of him, but he could still fight. The same could not be said for Killer Bee, as Madara appeared using his time-space ninjutsu and took the 8 tails away. That was the last time anyone saw him. Enraged that he was unable to protect his friend and fellow Jinchuriki, Naruto took both Sasuke's Kusanagi and Bee's Samahata with him. Leaving the area, he headed straight to the Shinobi Alliance headquarters. Upon arriving, he saw a familiar face waiting for him at the door. She allowed a small smile to appear on her face as she rocked a small bundle in her arms back and forth. It wasn't until a week later that Madara appeared in the battlefield. This time, though, Naruto went after him. The two fought and fought. The land around them changed drastically. In the end, Naruto managed to corner him. That is until Madara summoned his paths of pain to the field that the tide switch. Naruto retreated. The next time those two met was a few days later, when Madara brought the Gedo Mazo and captured Naruto. The Shinobi Alliance was in a bind now, as all the tailed beasts were captured by Madara. They all began to feel hopeless. The Gokages didn't, though, since they formulated an all-out assault against Madara. Together the ninjas fought their way into the enemy's stronghold. What they saw stunned them. Their fighting the six paths was none other than Itachi Uchiha. He told them that Naruto was fighting Madara far away from there. They instantly went to find the blonde knucklehead. Now Naruto sat looking at the sky. His body was bruised all over. Blood oozed out from the countless cuts in his body. He gazed at the destroyed statue that once held the bijus in it. Now they were a part of him, along with Madara, whom he used the same seal that he used on Sasuke, which worked after he used another seal to prevent the Uchiha from using his space-time ninjutsu. As for the biju, Naruto triggered a seal that he placed over the Kyubis that instead of extracting the yokai from him, it would bring more into him. The 8-tailed beast joined Naruto, making him the new Jinchuriki of the Jubi. And all in all, that had taken a lot out of him, to the point where he wouldn't heal any longer, thus he was dying. But before he died, he used his last few minutes. He had to write a goodbye letter to all his precious people. Then when he finished, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the Jinchuriki of the Jubi, the Nidaime Rakudo Sennin, the Nidaime Gamma Sennin, died in peace with the only regret of not being there for his wife and daughter. As soon as Naruto left the world, the Gokage arrived along with some other ninja arrived to see the lifeless body of their most hated enemy and their savior. Tsunade was the first to say something, which was naming Naruto Rokudaime Hokage, saying that he died as the one thing he dreamed of the most and the way a true Kage dies. It was at this moment that they noticed the single scroll in his hand, with only the name to the addressee, taking the scroll. Tsunade then watched as Naruto's body disintegrated into particles of light. Looking down at the scroll, she made a sad smile, for it read, Takuratsuchi Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. The only remains of Naruto were his sage cloak and his headband. *W. Naruto. It was dark, but surprisingly warm and soft. A light then came and pierced the darkness away, and opening his eyes, Naruto looked around him. He was lying in the middle of a lush green field, the clear blue sky above him. The field seemed to go on forever. So you're finally, are you, whelp? Said a deep voice. Turning around so fast that it made the Hirishin no Jutsu seem slow, Naruto quickly went into a battle stance. Standing behind him was a massive one-eyed black fox with 10 tails behind it. Calm down, the both of you, there won't be any fighting here, do you understand? Said a soft angelic voice. Both the Jubi and Naruto saw that the owner of the voice, one panicked slightly, while the other was about to pass out from a massive nosebleed. Floating in the air was the most beautiful woman Naruto had ever seen in his life. Light blue hair, bright gold eyes. She wore a white dress that was tied on her chest, making her double Ds look even bigger. Who are you? Asked the blonde. I am Kami, young Uzumaki, the woman responded, and to answer your next question, yes, you are dead, but you haven't been sent to heaven or hell yet for one reason, your time is not now. What? Asked Naruto. What I meant to say is that your time to join heaven is not here yet. I have decided to give you a second chance at life in a new world, Kami said. Naruto looked at her as if she'd grown a second head or something. She had just told him that he was being given a second chance at life. He could help raise his lil Kushina along his Kuro-chan. Sadly, I can't send you back to your world, since that is the place you died in, Kami said to the boy who was getting excited of going home. Why? Things don't work like that. Once you died in your world, you may never be returned there. Where I plan on sending you, you will be unable to summon you toads or any other summon, Kami said. But before I send you there are some people who wish to speak with you. As those words left her, people began to appear in the field. The first two people to come appear were none other than his parents, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. The next couple of people made him smile even more as Hiruzen Sarutobi, Jiraiya, Nagato, Konan, Zabuza, Haku, even Itachi appeared. Then one person appeared, one that he didn't know at all. He was dressed like and had the same duck-ass hairstyle as Sasuke, but he looked more like Madara. Who are you? Naruto asked, pointing at the Uchiha. Letting a small chuckle, he spoke, I am Madara's brother, Izuna Uchiha, and I must thank you for getting rid of my brother, for he was far too gone to be saved. Now I believe that they all wanted to give you something before you were sent to the new world, spoke Kami as she went to where the Jubi was lying forgotten. Oh, look at you, Naruto. You've grown up to be so strong and handsome, spoke his red-haired mother first. I'm so happy. Yes, we are quite proud of you, my son. However, I must say that I am surprised that my granddaughter is the great-granddaughter of Oanoki. Never saw that coming, Minato said. What can I say? I'm the most unpredictable ninja ever born, though it saddens me that I won't get the chance to see grow, said Naruto sadly. That is sad. It seems that the cycle continued. You never had us growing up, but at least she's got her mother and everyone will love her, for she is the daughter of the Rokudame Hokage Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Minato said. Yes, it's true, Gaki, Jiraiya said, but I have to complain, couldn't you find one more developed? When those words left his mouth, he found himself on the ground with Kushina on top of him, beating him with a large frying pan. Naruto-kun, spoke the Sandame, I must say that I am really proud of you. Thanks a lot, Gigi, that coming from you means a lot to me, Naruto said, hugging the old man. Well, Brad, it seems that we meet once again, Zabuza said as he walked up to him along with Haku. It's been a while no brows, Naruto said to the taller man. Still cocky as ever, I see. Naruto-kun, you truly lived up to what I told you that day we met for the first time in the Land of Waves, said Haku. Sure did, ha. Whatever Naruto was going to say was lost as he took in Haku's form. He could see all her curves in the right places, but he remembered that he was told that she was a he. I knew it, you are a girl. Yes, I am a girl, sorry I had to lie to you, Haku said. Naruto, thank you for everything, Nagato said as he and Konan came closer to him. Yes, you did us a favor in getting rid of Madara, Konan said, thank you. Naruto, it is almost time for you to go, so if you will all give him your gifts, Kami spoke as she approached them along with the Jubi. Minato came forward and pulled out a pair of scrolls. These are from your mother and I. They contained all of our knowledge of Fuinjutsu. Take good care of yourself and make sure to find a nice girl to fall in love with and give me more grandkids to spoil one day, Kushina said. We also put some clothes in there. Thank you. To-san, Ka-san, said Naruto, I'll try but I won't guarantee that I will find someone as nice as Kuro-chan. Hiruzen came next with a scroll as big as the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing. This here is all the jutsus that I have learned while I was alive. Arigato, Gigi, Naruto said, hugging the old man again. Zabuza and Haku came after the old man. Well Brad, we have a set of scrolls as well. Mine contains my sword style and Haku's has some futon and Sweden ninjutsus as well as Hyoden. Thanks no brows, Haku-chan. Well all I can give you is some knowledge of the Rinnegan that I have, Nagato said, placing his finger on Naruto's forehead. I want to pass on my paper style ninjutsu as well, Conan said, placing a finger on his forehead when Nagato was done. Naruto was about to go and tell Kami that he was ready when a hand stopped him. Seeing who it belonged to, he saw Izuna. Naruto, I may not know you as well as the others but I have something for you too, he said, placing a hand on his head. Instantly he felt his eyes in pain. Everyone watched closely. When Naruto opened his eyes they had turned red with comma-like markings around the pupil. He now had the one bloodline that caused all the problems, the Sharingan. I gave the Sharingan so that you can cleanse it, name, Izuna said. Now then, I wanted to give this to you when I was alive but I guess it's better late than never, Jiraiya said, put the large scroll he always carried. In here is my grandest works of my life, use them well. After each person had given him their gift they returned to heaven to rest. Now it was just Naruto, Jubi, and Kami left. Naruto, I'm going to give you some knowledge of the world in which I will be sending you now, she said, sending the blonde the information required. Also I going to give a type of magic to use, it's called re-equip. Okay. What does it do? Asked Naruto. Let me explain it to him, said a new feminine voice out of nowhere. Naruto felt something dreadful approaching and he was right. From behind him a black portal of some sort appeared and out came a woman just as beautiful as Kami. She had long midnight black hair, black eyes, a heart-shaped face, but the most noticeable part was her attire. It consisted of a skin-tight black dress that really hugged her hourglass-shaped body and a white houri over it. Now he was more than convinced that the women here were trying to kill him from a bloody nose. As he felt a small drip of blood coming out of his nose, he moved quickly and removed it before the women saw him. I am the Shinigami, the new woman said, and you Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze are someone whom I must apologize to for making your life a living hell, since I was the one who was called to seal the Kyuubi into. Naruto looked at her and he could see that she actually was sorry. Don't worry about it. Sure, I might have had a hard life but it would have been worse if people gave me everything like a certain Uchiha. That is true, the Shinigami said. Not to be rude or anything but why are you here for sister, asked Kami. Right, well, since you're sending Naruto to that place and bestowing re-equip magic on him, then as an apology I came to give him some gifts, Shinigami said. Now then, to give you what I brought. Suddenly out the thin air 11 swords appeared floating in the air. Naruto marvels at the beauty that each has. Now as my sister Kami said, you will have the magic known as re-equip. Now this type of magic allows you to equip yourself with all kinds of armor and weapons by sending them into a type of pocket dimension, the Shinigami said. Now I will send you all the knowledge that I have and you will use it to send these swords into it. The Shinigami's hand began to glow for a moment before it turned into a ball that went into Naruto via his chest, effectively knocking him down. It took a minute for Naruto to get back up as he processed all the information he had been given by the goddess. When he finished, he raised his hand and for about 5 minutes nothing happened. Time passed until about half an hour passed before the swords vanished from where they were. Good, you seem to be getting the hang of it now. Keep practicing with your magic, Kami said. Now I sure my sister would want to tell you what they do but I think it would be best if you found out yourself. Just know that each sword is sentient and that to use them to their full potential you must earn their respect. Understood, Naruto said. Now just like my sister I will also be giving some knowledge of the world I which you are going, Kami said as she released a ball of light from her hand. I have a question. What's going to happen with the Jubi? Naruto asked. Finally remembered that I was here, did you? Well, we have decided that it would be best if I stayed here with Kami and Yami, the Jubi responded. However, you will keep all of my power and abilities, meaning that you will be able to use the power of all the tailed creatures from Shukaku to Kyuubi and mine of course, which is the ability to copy and use any technique. However, if you don't have the affinity to use the technique, then you won't be able to use it. Naruto looked astounded. The Jubi was giving full control of its power and couldn't help but grin at the thought of how he would train from now on. Looking at Naruto, Yami and Kami both smirked at what they had planned next for him. Now, I think that it is time for you to go and remember that you must master your magic on your own with the help of the people from the world, Kami said. Good luck and take care. A light engulfed Naruto as he saw both women grinning like Tsunade when she goes to all-you-can-drink bar. He knew that something bad was going to happen. Naruto blacked out at the same time the light took him completely. Earthland. The day was perfect. The sky was clear, the lake was calm, and the creatures of the forest were quiet. Yes, it was the perfect day in his mind. Then it hit him, a strange and powerful presence was coming. Raising his head, he looked up at the darkening sky. A growl escaped his throat as the presence came closer and its power was getting bigger. Then it shot out of a hole that opened from the middle. It was coming in his direction, not wanting to let it crash. Two massive wings unfolded from his back and he shot up into the air. Using one of its large claws, he caught the falling object. Looking down at what he had caught, his eyes widened. In his paw was a young human boy no older than 6 years old. He had blonde hair, 3 whisker-like marking on each cheek. Naruto had never felt anything like it before. His body was in pain from whatever Kami had done to him. He had lost conscious when the pain got too bad, but now it was all gone. Opening his eyes, he saw one thing he had never in his wildest dream hoped of seeing. The thing in front of him was easily as tall as the Jubi, but this was no fox. This was a massive dragon. It was black and gold in color, its underbelly was light yellow. It had 2 horns growing on the side of his head, its red eyes were looking straight at him. Then its 2 wings folded slightly as it took off. Minutes later he was unceremoniously dropped into the cold hard ground. Looking up, he saw the dragon looking at the area they had come from. "Who are you?" asked Naruto. The dragon didn't respond at first, so he decided to get his attention a different way. Bringing his hands together, he made a few hand signs. "Raiden." "Shocking wave," said Naruto, releasing a small bolt of lightning. It hit the dragon in the neck. The dragon felt the hit and turned angrily, looking at the boy who dare attack him with his own element, but what he saw in the child made him curious. Never in his life had he ever met someone who showed no fear toward one of his kind, and this boy had the balls to go and attack him directly. "You dare attack me with my own element, boy? You must have a death wish," said the dragon, "and I can tell you that no child is strong enough to defeat me." "Child? I'm 16 years old, you know," said Naruto, not liking being called a child. The dragon laughed, then responded, "Really, have you looked at yourself lately?" Naruto looked around and spotted a small puddle of water. Moving fast, he went to see his reflection and was shocked at what he saw. He was gazing at himself. As a 6-year-old, the blonde did the only thing he could think of. He screamed. The dragon just watched with an amused look on his face. "Tell me what your name is." "Naruto. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. And yours?" Naruto asked, responded. "Crossel. My name is Crossel." The dragon responded. "Now tell me how you got here, as I know that you are not from this world." "Well, I guess I don't see any harm in that. Might as well get comfortable as this is going to take a while," the blonde said. "It all began on October 10th, the day I was born." When Naruto finally woke up from his slumber, he glanced all around him looking for his surrogate father, but for some reason he was nowhere to be seen. Then that's when he knew that the day had finally come, the day that he would leave. For the last 7 years he had been trained and raised by Crossel, a black and gold dragon. He sometimes wondered why he wasn't the king of dragons, as he was extremely powerful and could rival the current dragon king Bahamut. But the answer he got was too many responsibilities, and he rather live his life away from others. As Naruto walked out the cave where he had lived with his father, he began to think on what he was going to do from now on, now that he was alone. For 7 long years he had trained in all kinds of things. He had to get his chakra control back to what it used to be, work on his ninjutsu, fuinjutsu, senjutsu, and taijutsu. He then added more to his arsenal by learning genjutsu and medical ninjutsu. Hell, he went as far as to learn Tsunade's super strength. Not only that, but he had to work on his X-Quip magic that was given to him by Kami and Yami. He was proud to say that he had mastered it up to a decent level, and also say he was the owner of some rather powerful weapons and few armors. along with a few other weapons he collected. However, the most interesting thing he learned was what his father taught him: lighting Dragon Slayer magic. The Dragon Slayer magic is an ancient type of magic that can only be taught by dragons themselves. The power behind each spell was unbelievable. Each of the offensive spells had the power of an A-rank jutsu or even S-rank. After 3 years of learning to harness the lighting, he went as far as to recreate some of the lighting ninjutsu he had seen and use them with magic instead of chakra. Another type of magic that he had learned was one that Crossell himself had found when he was in another dimension. Unfortunately, he was unable to return to that land ever again. Yep, those last 7 years had been the best for Naruto, but he was now all alone. Sure, his father told him that he would be leaving, but didn't say to where. So now all he had left to do was gather a few things from the cave and set out to find a new place to call his home. One thing he remembered learning from his father was that mages usually joined something called a magic guild, but he didn't bother to tell him what they were called, so he would go out and learn all about them before deciding what to do: join one or not join one. As he looked through his pack, he made sure that everything was in order. He had storage scrolls labeled with each items it contained. Then when he looked at one that was labeled jewels, he decided to take some out in case he needed the money. However, when he unsealed the money, he noticed that there was only 2,000 jewels. This meant that he would have to do some odd missions to obtain money, that or do the unthinkable and publish his godfather's Icha Paradise books, or as he called them, smut books. Sighing, he took one last look at his home for the last 7 years and let out a tear fall down his face. He was 6 when he arrived at this place, but he was actually over 25 years old, as he had been 18 when he died in the Elemental Nations. Crossell had told him that didn't matter anymore, as he had been 6 when he arrived. Now he was 13 years old again. The worst thing for him was going through puberty for a second time. With that, he began to walk away, heading towards the closest town to get some supplies, also to see if there was a job he could do. It didn't take too long to reach the small village. When he did arrive, a smile formed on his face as he saw people doing their everyday jobs. Walking to the closest store, he saw a sign stating for travelers to be careful, as there was a gang of bandits in the area and that even the knights were having a hard time taking them down. Shaking his head, he walked into the store, still thinking on how every world has to have bandits running around free, and that no one could eradicate them. Once inside the store, he went towards the food aisle. During this, the man behind the counter kept a close eye on him, as he had had trouble with brats stealing from his store. Watching him, he couldn't help but wonder why one child would need such a large amount of food, as the blonde was grabbing food that would feed him and his family for over a month. Finally, after 10 minutes, Naruto made his way to the counter, where the man began to place the items into bags as he typed some number into the cash register. In the end, the man gave him the amount he owed, which was 1,500 jewels, leaving Naruto with only 500 jewels left. The one thing the owner of the store wondered the most was how the small boy was going to carry all those bags. Naruto, on the other hand, pulled out a scroll which he unrolled on the ground. Then he proceeded to place the bags on top. The shop owner watched in fascination, as he had never seen anything like this. "All right, Fuin," said Naruto as he made a ram sign. The bags disappeared in a cloud of smoke. "What was that?" asked the man. "Oh, this is called Fuinjutsu," Naruto responded. "It allows me to seal things into scrolls such as this one." "Wow, that's some useful magic you got there, boy," the man said. "Thanks. Say, can you tell me which town is the closest to get a job?" asked Naruto. I think the closest town where you will be able to get a job will be Shirotsume, which is about a day away from here. All you have to do is take the south gate and go straight," the shop owner said. "Thanks," said Naruto as he put the scroll away. He was on the road soon after. Walking out the south gate, he made his way towards Shirotsume town to find a job. He still couldn't help but feel something weird in the pit of his stomach, ever since he saw that warning poster. Putting those thoughts aside, he continued walking down the path, hoping to find a place to rest for the night, as he knew that he wouldn't make it to the next town before dark unless he ran using his chakra, but he wanted to enjoy the scenery, as he had yet to explore this land. It wasn't until an hour later that he heard something, the sound of someone crying. Not just any crying either, it sounded like a girl. Using his enhanced senses, he made his way to locate whoever was crying to see if he could help. Then something hit his nose, a smell he was all too familiar with. Smoke and alcohol, along with sweat and other repulsive smells. Only one thing gave off those scents: bandits. Sending chakra to his legs, he ran as fast as he could to reach their location. Using his skills, he reached a part of the forest off the road that was quite secluded. There in the middle of a large group of bandit was a little girl who couldn't be older than 5 years old at the least. Without hesitation he jumped from where he was to help her out. POV change. Why? That was the only thing she could think of. Why had her mother abandoned her? Why? She had done nothing wrong that she could think of. She had followed her teachings to the best of her skills. Was that not enough for her? Now she was lost and alone with nowhere to go, so she took the decision to leave her cavern home and go in search for her. For 2 days she searched all over the surrounding area but found nothing. She searched further away and still nothing, so she left the area completely. She traveled through the dense forest, crying as she found herself lost in the wilderness, that is until she came to a road. Sniffing, she followed the road in hope to reach a town. As she walked on the road, she never felt something come from behind her until it was too late and a hand grabbed her as another covered her mouth. Whoever had taken her took her into the forest once again, this time to a small clearing where she found herself surrounded by many men. Scared at not knowing what to do, she began to cry louder. These men were evil in her mind and now she really didn't know what to do. She could hear them laughing at her as she whimpered. "Looks like you finally found something worthy," said one of them to the one who brought her to them. She was walking alone on the road, with no one watching her, so it was easy. "So what do you say we all have some fun with her, then we can either kill her or sell her in the black market," responded the man who kidnapped her. "Although she is young, she can be used as a mean for a good release," said another. "Good, then I will have the first go." The one who had brought her here walked closer to her while undoing his belt. The girl didn't know what the man was planning, but it made her more afraid. The man laughed louder as the belt came off. Seeing her cower was making this all the much better in his opinion. The girl waited for what was to happen. However, the next thing she heard wasn't laughter, it was some kind of battle cry. "Rasengan" was the only that was cried out, followed by an explosion. The girl could feel the dirt hit her and dust go into her nose and mouth. Opening her eyes to see what had happened, she saw through her red and puffy eyes a young boy looking at her. He had short spiky blonde hair, 6 whiskers like markings on his face, bright blue eyes. He wore baggy black cargo pants, brown combat boots, and a sleeveless black zip-up shirt. On his left arm he wore a black and gold gauntlet of some king as it extended from his wrist up to his shoulder. His hand was covered by the gauntlet's claws. She gulped as he looked menacing with the look on his face, then he turned and faced the remaining bandits. "If there is something that I hate the most in this world, it would be rapists. However, there is something that I hate even more, and that is people who would abuse a child for their sick and twisted ways," the blonde said. "For trying to harm this child, I will kill all of you." With that, the blonde shot towards them, his clawed hand extended as he pierced a man in his stomach, ripping off a good chunk of his body. Then a circle of some sort appeared in his left hand and a sword appeared. It was longer than the boy and wide. A hole was located near the tip of the sword, and a semicircle near the hilt. The bandits backed slightly away at the sight of the blade, but a sword that big couldn't be swung by a child, so they charged. The boy made a strange signal with his hand. "Kirigakure no jutsu," he said. Instantly the whole area was covered with a thick blanket of mist, making the charging men stop. A cold wave washed over them as a sinister laugh echoed throughout the area. "Heart, lungs, liver, brain, and throat," a voice came from the mist. "These are just some of the ways to kill a person in one move." The bandits were scared now, so scared that some even soiled their pants, and then things took a turn for the worst for them. Screams were heard throughout the mist. One by one they were being taken down by an unknown force. They couldn't hear who was attacking, much less see what was going on. In less than 10 minutes the 50 bandits that had attempted to commit an unforgivable act were all dead. The girl who was at the base of a tree looked terrified at the mist that was covering her view of anything, which is when she heard something approaching her. Looking, she saw that it was the same boy from before. He had a warm smile on his face as he kneeled in front of her. "Don't be afraid. Those evil men are gone now, so there is nothing to be afraid of," he said. "My name is Naruto. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours?" Wendy, the girl stuttered. "That's a cute name," Naruto told her. "So what were you doing out here where it's so dangerous?" "Looking for my Ka-san," responded Wendy. "She left me alone and hasn't come back." By now tears were falling down her face. "Well, what does she look like? Maybe I can help you find her," Naruto asked her. "She is very big and beautiful. She has feather on her wings and," she began but stopped when she saw the look on Naruto's face. "Your mother is a dragon?" he asked her, already knowing the answer. Wendy nodded her head. I see, so you were also left behind. My father left me too. I woke up and found him gone, so I left the cave where we lived and began looking for him, he told her. Nay, why don't you come with me and we can search together? Really? Asked the little girl. Naruto gave her a nod, and for the first time since she searched for her mother she felt happy. Standing up, Naruto stretched out his hand, helping Wendy up. In his mind he was already coming up with some way to help her forget what happened tonight. As the two walked away, the mist began to lift up and a horrendous scene was left for people to find. Bodies laid all over the area, guts and gore adorned the forest. A week later, a week had passed since Naruto had met and taken Wendy with him, and was happy to have someone traveling with him. In his opinion, this last week had been the most troubling. Wendy had been having nightmares about her close R experience. Although she didn't know anything about it, she was still scared. Thus she had slept with Naruto every night just to feel safe. The blonde didn't care, as he had promised that he would care for her. After that, for some reason she called his two-san, which sort of annoyed the blonde. Naruto glanced over at where Wendy was playing with some flowers. At the moment they were resting near a lake, and to Wendy's delight there was a flower bed nearby. He smiled as he watched her make a flower crown. Just by looking at her play made a sad smile come to his face as he remembered his own kid that he would never see grow up. At the same time he also thought of Kuretsuchi, about how they fell in love during his 2-year training. He was about to go and get some lunch ready for them to enjoy by the lake when he felt someone nearby watching them. Wendy-chan, come on over here, we have to get lunch ready. Naruto called the little girl over in a manner as to not let their spy know about him, her. Wendy got up quickly and went over to where surrogate father was waiting for her. As soon as she was close to him he pulled her behind him. Alright, I know you're there, come out or else I will drag you out myself, Naruto called out loud. Wendy just stared at him as he looked at the woods, wondering whom he was talking to. Then not too long after, her father called out a young boy around the same age as Naruto came out of the woods. He had short spiky blue hair, brown eyes with a strange tattoo under his right eye. He wore a black short-sleeved shirt with white and red lines, white pants, and brown boots. On his back he carried a large backpack, a sleeping bag poking out from the top, and a wood staff strapped to the bag. I'm sorry for spying on you, but I was just passing and did not meant any harm to you or the girl, he said. My name is Jellal. Naruto looked at the boy who had just introduced himself, still trying to find any malevolent intent. However, Wendy came from around him. Hi, she said. My name is Wendy, and this is my two-san Naruto. Two-san? Jellal asked, a little confused at how this boy could be a father already if he seemed to be his age. Sigh, don't ask. She keeps calling me that even though I have told her to call Ni-san or just plain Naruto, the blonde said. So what are you doing all the way out here? Well, I'm looking for something, but I kind of got lost on the way, and in the end I just decided to wing it and travel while I search. Who knows, I may find it by chance, Jellal responded. Where are you headed? We're heading towards Oniba's. We picked up a job while we were in Shirotsume. No, we're heading to meet our client, Naruto responded, as he looked up at the sky and noticed that quite some time had passed since Jellal had begun talking to him. In the position the sun was in, they only had about 4 to 5 hours of light left, not enough time to make it to the next town. Is something the matter, two-san? Asked Wendy. No, it just seems that we will be staying here tonight as we don't have enough time to make it to the next town, the blonde informed her. I'll get started on out food in a minute. Will you join us, Jellal-san? The little blue-haired girl asked her fellow brunette. Well, he started, but he glanced at Naruto, who just gave him a reassuring nod. Sure. Also, Naruto-san, I have some fruits and nuts that I can share, and also would it be okay if I traveled with you to Oniba's? Sure, you can come with us, Naruto told him as he reached into his ninja pouch. I have an extra tent in case you need one, the blue-haired boy said, trying to help out. That won't be necessary as I can build ourselves a house, said Naruto as he kneeled down and placed the scroll he took out on the ground before starting to make some strange hand signs. Build a house. How? Jellal wondered. Jellal's answer came when Naruto slammed his palms on the ground. Mokuton. Shichiwoken no Jutsu. The boy's eyes went wide open as a massive 2-story house rose from the ground. It was an old Japanese-style home. He looked over at Wendy, who was looking at the house like it was nothing new. Of course he should have known that since she was with the blonde that she was bound to know that he could make a house appeared. Naturally, he was also fascinated as he had never heard of someone using magic to make houses, and wondered what type he uses. "What kind of magic is that?" Jellal asked. "No magic, this something called ninjutsu, and no, I won't say anything more than that," Naruto said. "I guess everyone has their secrets that they don't want anyone else to know," Jellal said, shrugging his shoulders. With that, Naruto unrolled the scroll he had taken out earlier and made a hand sign calling out release. In a cloud of smoke a table appeared. Soon the two teens began to work on their dinner while Wendy just sat inside on the side and waited for the food to be finished. As soon as they finished making the food, Wendy began to set the table using the utensils that were inside the house. The group ate in total quietness. When the food was gone, Naruto made a cage bushin to wash the dishes. This once again shocked Jellal as he saw Naruto throw a new technique every so often. By the time the area had been cleaned up, the sun was going down and the group decided to turn in early as they planned to get up early the next day to continue on their way. 6-year-old Wendy Marvel Uzumaki was skipping down the road with a large smile on her face. Behind her was her surrogate father Naruto Uzumaki. The two of them were heading toward the merchant town called a Califa to do a trade of an item that Naruto had found in a cave during their last mission. In truth, they had found more than one thing. Sealed inside of a scroll was an old book about ancient magic that he decided to keep for further study. The blonde had a small smile on his face as he saw Wendy smiling. She was finally smiling again after Jellal left them to go on his own, and that really depressed her. The blue-haired boy had only traveled with them for about 6 months before he left the party. However, the boy didn't leave without being caught as he tried to sneak off during the middle of the night, but Naruto saw him leaving. After a small talk with Jellal, he now knew why he was leaving them. Apparently he found what he was looking for and he was about to go and see if it was. Naruto of course didn't allow him to go without Naruto giving him one of his special tri-pronged kunais that he had. The boy was skeptic about how the kunais worked, that is until Naruto performed the technique in front of him. The blonde then explained how it was his father who invented the jutsu, the name of the jutsu, the Hiroshin no Jutsu. Jellal took the kunai in the end and left, telling Naruto that he should join a guild soon as his reputation was growing and many guilds would come after him. The ninja only chuckled at his comment and said that he could handle anyone who came after him or his daughter. It wasn't until morning that Wendy found out that her friend Jellal left. Naruto did his best to cheer her up by telling her that they would see him again. The female dragon slayer wasn't happy, and for about a month she didn't smile or anything, but she came around and began to smile again. Naruto let out a sigh as he watched his bundle of joy run up to him and grabbed his hand, pulling him. His eyes landed ahead of them and saw that they had arrived at a Califa. The two walked up to the gate to the town that was being guarded by 2 knights, whom gave the duo a nod. The first thing that Naruto noticed about the town was that it was bustling with merchants selling and buying many goods, from clothes to jewelry. However, Wendy was dragging to the one place that he would have looked for as soon as he arrived in town, the restaurant. He laughed slightly at the actions of his daughter. The girl on the other hand was so excited to eat that she let go of her father's hand and ran ahead to get her food. Naruto watched her go. Sighing out loud, he ran up to catch up with her. He needed to keep her out of trouble. After they were done eating, the two went and sold the piece of jewelry that the blonde had found in that cave from his last mission. He received a decent price for it, in the amount of 700 jewels. Now the two were heading to the local job request tavern to see if there were any good missions available. By the time they arrived at the tavern, he noticed that there were a lot of people around a board in the lower left corner of the establishment. Curious as to what was going on, him along with Wendy went over to see what all the fuss was about. What he saw wasn't what he was expecting. On the small board was an article on the destruction of a tower by the mages from a magic guild called Fairy Tale. A small smile came his face as he thought of all the things he heard from the guild. If there was a guild that he would join one day, it would be that one, but at the moment he wasn't really that interested. Not really wanting to know more about the tower, he moved away toward the request board. Wendy on the other hand looked more at the article before joining her father. Naruto meanwhile was looking at the board, seeing which would be the most difficult as he needed more training to get back up to the level he used to be at. Seeing a perfect one about a demon up north terrorizing the nearby towns, he went to reach for it, but as soon as he grabbed it, another hand was on it. Following the hand, he saw a white-haired girl with blue eyes. She seemed to be around his age. His eyes then traveled lower and a blush appeared on his face at seeing her attire. She wore a black midriff sleeveless shirt, although she had a flat chest, and short, really short, black shorts. The girl on the other hand looked back at him with a raised eyebrow. She wondered why he was looking at her the way he was. Then it hit her he was checking her out. A small blush rose to her face and soon she began to scowl. "Sorry," he said, "I didn't think that anyone else would be taking this mission." That took her by surprise as his hand let go of the request paper and he grabbed another that was next to it. She watched him go, but then stopped right outside the door, and then she felt someone push her away a little. A small blue-haired girl ran from behind her up the boy and jumped onto his back before he vanished in a swirl of water. What the hell just happened? She asked herself, slightly confused. "Mira Jane, what's wrong?" asked a young girl's voice. "Nothing. Let's go, Lisana," the girl Mira said. Meanwhile Naruto and Wendy were happily walking on the road. Well, more like Naruto was walking since he was carrying Wendy on his shoulders. At the moment he was thinking about that girl that he saw and the weird aura she was eluding. It was as if she was barely able to control her magic. Sighing, he pulled out the poster he took and saw that it was a mission that was being requested by a man in Shirotsume town. But what really bothered him was the place where he was to meet the client and the fact that it didn't really have much info on the type of mission that it was. Hours later the two finally reached the town and Naruto made a shadow clone whom he handed Wendy over to while he went to find the client. Walking into the local pub, he went and sat in the corner and waited for the man to arrive as it was instructed. He didn't wait long as a man sat down next to him. He had his face covered with a worn-out traveling cloak. "I take it you're the one whom came to take my request?" the man asked. "Yeah," responded the blonde. "Thank you, I appreciate the help, though I have to wonder how many people you brought?" he asked. "It's just me," said Naruto, "I'm a one-man army." The man looked shocked at what this boy had said. He was the only one whom had come. This was not going to end well for the town, but at least it might help out a little. "So what is this mission about?" the Jinchuriki asked. "Before that, I think it would be best if I tell you who I am. I am the mayor of this town, and I want you to eliminate the guild known as Ghoul Spirit," the now revealed mayor said. "The elimination of guilds should be left up to those rune knights I've heard so much about," said Naruto. "Normally yes, but they have ignored my pleas of help, so now I have to resort to this kind of thing," said the mayor. "Very well then, I will go and disband this dark guild that you're having trouble with then," Naruto said as he got up. Naruto walked out of the bar and walked in the direction that the mayor had pointed him in. He hoped that this wouldn't take so long. He made it to the outskirts of the town in 10 minutes. He then proceeded to head to where the guild was. Just as he knew that he was approaching it, he stopped. Not a second passed before a group of mages surrounded him. Judging from the symbol on them, he knew that they were from Ghoul Spirit. "So this is that foolish mage that bastard mayor hired to take out our guild. Such a mistake," spoke one of those mages around the blonde. "Let's just kill this fool and send his body to the mayor," another said, this time a woman. The other Ghoul Spirit mages chuckled at the comment. 10 against 1? The blonde said, "Man, this is so not worth my time." "What's that supposed to mean, you blonde bastard?" a redhead said. "Just what it means. 10 of you aren't enough to defeat me," Naruto said, vanishing in a burst of speed only to reappear 20 feet away. The 10 mages fell to the ground without knowing what happened. Smiling, the blonde kept on walking. He knew that he was being watched. Taking another step, he triggered a trap that had been laid. From the trap, a giant cage came crashing down on top of him, trapping him in place. 3 mages came out from hiding, smiles on their faces. "Well, not a very good mage, are you now?" asked the tall one. Naruto smiled at them before he went up in a cloud of smoke, shocking them. A shadow dropped down from above on top of the one who made the remark, knocking him out. The other 2 began to run away, but before they got even 5 feet, 2 silver needles embedded into their necks, sending them to the ground as well. Naruto turned and continued his journey to find the main base of these so-called mages. It only took him 5 minutes to arrive at the place, and what he found wasn't to his liking. The building was just 2 stories high, with lots of windows in the front. It seemed to stretch about 40 feet in length. "Man, I at least hope that there is a competent mage in there," Naruto said as he walked up to the door. Sighing, he kicked it open, sending it off the hinges. The inside was a shock to the blonde. It was dark and empty. Glancing around and seeing nothing, he kept on moving forward. As soon as he got to the center, the lights came on, revealing over 50 mages in the room, all of them grinning at the blonde. All at once they began to attack him with all kinds of different magic spells. They got closer, and the only thing the blonde did was yawn. Just when the spells were about to hit him, a smirk appeared on Naruto's face. Rotation. He called out as he began to spin, and a blue dome of energy surrounded him, spinning as well. All the attackers were taken aback by the display of magic. Then the dome grew bigger and bigger, destroying everything in its path. Soon it was big enough that it took with it a large amount of the room, along with the Ghoul spirit mage and part of their guild. Naruto looked around and saw that the mages were either dead or heavily injured, that they wouldn't move for a while or ever. Smiling in satisfaction with his work, the blonde disappeared in a yellow flash. However, he didn't notice that he had witnesses for his job as 4 people emerged from the shadows. "What interesting magic," one of them, a male, said. "I'm sure Master will want to know about that boy." "Yes, he would. He will also send us after him later on to recruit him," a woman this time said. "He is rather cute too." "A Karuga, you sound like a cradle robber with what you just said," a third member, a male, said with a laugh. "Shut up, Vidaldis. Now come on, we have to report this Master that the guild he wanted to have join us is gone," the woman known as a Karuga said, "and also of our findings." 3 of them left and the 4th member stayed behind for a minute looking at the destroyed guild before following his comrades. That boy could either be a powerful ally or a deadly enemy, were the thoughts of the 4th member. Naruto, on the other hand, had just arrived at the town and was getting ready to go find Wendy to go collect his reward when he felt a strange presence. Looking at the sky, he could swear that he felt this same kind of energy around 6 months ago on the night that Jellal left to go after the source. If he remembered correctly, he called it anima. Then as it came, it was gone. Shrugging, he continued walking to get his daughter. Although he was still thinking about those 4 presences, he felt close to the Ghoul Spirit Guild. They did nothing but observe. Since that was the only thing that they were doing, observing, he paid no attention to them, but now that he thought about it, maybe they were scouting him out. It would seem that the time to join a guild was drawing faster than he wanted. Making a shadow clone, he ordered it to go find the mayor and get the reward while he went to get Wendy. Meanwhile, Wendy along with shadow clone Naruto was sitting on the river bank that was located in the forest around the town. The two had decided to take a small hike through the area while the original Naruto went and dealt with the client for whatever he wanted. After a while, Wendy got tired and the two decided to take a small break before heading back to town to wait for the real Naruto to return. The clone was just about to say something to the young dragon slayer girl when she suddenly stood up and began to walk toward a pair of trees. Clone Naruto followed her to see where she was heading. She walked past the first few trees and kept going in deeper into the woods. The 2 dragon slayers walked for 5 more minutes before coming to a stop in front of hollowed-out tree. Wendy went inside immediately, while the shadow clone just watched for a moment. Then the girl came back out, but in her hands she held the biggest egg that he had ever seen. "What the hell?" the clone said. "I'd hate to see the chicken that laid that egg." "It's a dragon's egg," Wendy said with a smile. "The original has to see this," the clone said as he pulled out a tri-pronged kunai and throwing it to the ground. In a yellow flash, the real Naruto appeared. The clone quickly dismissed itself, letting Naruto know what was going on at the moment. He walked over to Wendy and kneeled down to look more closely at the egg. True, it was the biggest egg he had ever seen. It was weird too. It was white with pink stripes. In his opinion, this was not a dragon egg, and if it was, then it sure was a weird one. "2-san, can we keep it?" asked Wendy, giving the blonde the devastating puppy eye jutsu. The blonde sweat dropped at the sight of her face. Sure, he could say no, but that would hurt the girl. Sighing, he gave her a nod. Wendy gave him a dazzling smile as she began to rub the egg happily. Naruto couldn't help but feel curious as to what would hatch. "Let's go, Wendy-chan," said Naruto, walking away knowing that his clone would catch up to them. The brunette walked behind her father, a smile still on her face. 2.5 years later, time sure flew by. It had already been 3 years since Naruto had officially adopted Wendy as his daughter. He was now 15 years old and Wendy was 8. Naruto in the time changed his clothing slightly. He now sports black boots, black jeans with a brown belt and his ninja pouches attached to his hip, a gray skin-tight t-shirt, a black leather jacket with white fur trim around the neck. The necklace that Tsunade had given him around his neck. Also on his hip was the second Hokage's sword, the Raijin. His blonde hair had grown longer and he could now tie a small ponytail, and on his shoulder rested his old leaf headband. Wendy, who was walking next him, wore a pair of black sandals, gray pants, a white short-sleeve shirt, a black and white jacket with an orange whirlpool on the back, the same one that was on her father's jacket. On the girl's hip was a pouch just like Naruto's where she carried her items, but that wasn't the only on her hip. There was a pair of pouches where she carried the weapons that she had been given for her last birthday, a pair trench knives. During those 2 years they hadn't traveled alone anymore. A few days after Wendy found the so-called dragon egg, said egg hatched. The duo had been stunned with what had hatched. It was no reptile that came out, and instead it was a white cat. Wendy had been fascinated by the feline and instantly took a liking to her. She named the cat Charles. Later on the two nearly died of a heart attack when she spoke. Ever since then the cat became part of their family and would usually be found resting on Wendy's arm or on Naruto's head. Now the two were just walking around the land helping out where there was trouble and getting paid for helping. Also during the years Naruto's reputation grew and soon many guilds sought him out, from both regular guilds to dark guilds. Well, not all of them sought him. One guild never bothered him, and that was Fairy Tail. He sometimes wondered why, but after a while he let go of those thoughts, as he knew they would come sooner or later. Hell, he had even been asked to join the Rune Knights as a captain. He said no. Naruto reached into his pouch and pulled out something that he had recently obtained during a quest to take out a group of rogue mages. It wasn't from the mages he had obtained it from. He took it from a female mage who had also been on the similar quest, and apparently the client wasn't aware of the other mage. Well, the other mage was a female from a guild no Blue Pegasus. When he arrived at the hideout he saw the women tied to a chair as the group of male mages surrounded a pink-haired girl. When he glanced a little closer he noticed that she was different. Her energy was not the same as others. She also had small horns on her head. Not liking the way the men were looking at her he jumped in and started to attack the mages, effectively knocking them all out. Afterwards he looked at the tied-up woman. As he was about to release the woman, one of the mages woke up and told Naruto what the woman had done, saving her skin by sacrificing her stellar spirit. Naruto had been so enraged that he forced the woman to cancel her contract with the spirit or she would die. She tried to argue, but in the end she did as she was told. After picking up the 7 mages and taking the key from the woman he left her in the hut where he had arrived alone with a single pill that would restore her magic. Ever since that day he kept the key with him at all times, hoping to find a mage whom would be perfect, but so far he found out that stellar spirit mages were hard to come by. So in the end he ended up researching everything he could about spirits and the contracts that they make with the summoner and made the contract himself. Now he knew a new kind of magic, one that he didn't use very often. Seeing ahead, Wendy saw that they had finally arrived at the resort town that her father had told her he would bring her once she mastered the trench knives. Glancing up she saw the blonde looking at the golden key that he took from that woman he had told her about. Odo-san were here, Wendy said, but he didn't acknowledge her. Smirking she whispered something into the Neko's ear. The cat then smirked evilly and a pair of wings appeared on her back. Wendy reached into her pouch and pulled out 2 balloons and handed them to Charles. Charles flew up above the blonde. She was about to let go of the balloons, but she descended and landed on the blonde's hair, sinking her claws into the balloons, popping them. Water drenched the blonde, snapping him out of his thoughts. "Ah, what the hell, Charles?" the blonde yelled as the cat took off, and then he heard a giggle. Looking at Wendy he saw that she was laughing and was thinking, how in the hell did she prank him when he was the king of pranks? "Man, Wendy-chan, did you have to have Charles wet me?" "Well, you were in deep thought and that was the only way to get your attention," Wendy responded, "not to mention we are here." "Indeed we are," Naruto said. "Well, we might as well go find an inn to stay the night and tomorrow you can have all the fun you want." "Yay!" screamed the little girl as she ran ahead with Charles following close behind. A smiling Naruto not far behind. He had a gut feeling that something was about to happen soon and that he was going to have to protect his family with all he had. But for now he would enjoy himself here at the Akane Resort. Not much had changed in this last 2 years for Naruto, Wendy and Charles, aside from the fact that Wendy now joined Naruto on his missions instead of sitting on the sidelines. Naruto had also developed his magic even more, to the point that he could probably give one of the 10 wizard saints a run for their money. Wendy had grown the most in Naruto's eyes as she managed to do the impossible 6 months ago. That was unlock her chakra reserves, which Naruto thought would be impossible for mages, and now she had at least low chunin reserves. After she managed to do that, Naruto used the chakra paper that his sensei Kakashi had given him to check her affinity. It was no surprise when he saw that it was wind. So he began to teach her the basics, which were hard for her as she kept pulling magic energy instead of the chakra. However, now she was at least a high genin level low chunin. The blonde in this time had also created a few more variations to his father's jutsu, the Rasengan. He evolved it so far that it reached the point where he could literally throw it at his opponent, without adding an element affinity. For 2 years the duo and a cat would go anywhere to get a job. They even went back to the same towns that they had done jobs for before. At the moment Naruto and Wendy were sitting at a cafe in Harjin town, both enjoying a well-deserved break after their last mission. Having to clear out a mountain full of Vulcans really tired them out. Together they took out at least 60 of them, but some got away. "Anyo, Oto-san, where are we going next?" asked Wendy. "We're heading to Shirotsume town. I heard of a job that has caused the lives of quite a few mages," Naruto responded as he took a sip of his tea. "It's that difficult?" the girl said. "What could be so tough that mages have died?" Charles asked as she placed down a cup. "Not sure, but whatever it is I'll make sure to end it," Naruto said. "We'll leave in 2 hours, so go and do what you like until then meet me at the train station." With that Naruto stood and left in a swirl of wind, leaving his daughter and cat to do what they wanted until it was time to go. He on the other hand headed to the closest magic store that he could find. To his bad luck there was only one in the whole town. Shaking his head he went in to see if he could find anything worth buying. Upon entering he could see many things. There were pots, books, charms. There were even some sword hung up on the wall along with some shields. Behind the counter was an old man who was looking at him with a smile. "Yo, old man, do you have any magic swords aside from those on the wall?" asked the blonde. "I do have one other aside from those," the old man responded as he went into the back of the store. A minute later he returned pulling what seemed to be a small wagon. What was on the wagon intrigued him even more. The blade was at least the same size as his Kibikirabocho, but the blade was black and silver, and instead of it being like any regular katana or any other sword, this one was square with a sharp edge. The hilt was gray and at least a foot long, wrapped in silver bands. The guard was the same shape as the blade, square. "That is one strange sword," Naruto said as he approached the wagon. "This sword came in a week ago and I haven't been able to sell it. All those who have tried to lift it say that it's way too heavy," the shop owner said. "I sent a message to other towns promoting the sword to see if anyone would come and try it." "Well, I might as well try it," the blonde said as he grasped the hilt of the sword. With a grunt Naruto lifted the sword from the wagon. Just like the old man had said, the sword was indeed heavy, at least 3 times his Kibikirabocho. "I'll take it." "Excellent," the shop owner said happily as he went to the counter. "I will even cut you a deal and sell it to you for 300,000 jewels. Naruto pulled out his old frog wallet he had called Gama-chan and pulled out a few bills which he passed to the man. Nodding at him, the blonde made the sword disappear in a flash of light. He then made his way out of the store and left to go find a clothing store. The blonde walked through the streets looking right and left until he spotted a decent-looking clothing store. Naruto pushed open the door, making a small bell ring. The inside wasn't too big, however, and it did have quite a nice selection of clothes. Looking around the aisle he searched for something nice. The reason? Wendy's birthday was only a few days away and he wanted to give her something new that would fit her personality and allow good movement while training and on missions. He was about to give up when he saw an outfit at the back of the store. Just looking at it he knew that it was perfect. After leaving the cafe, Wendy and Charles walked around town seeing the sights. She never got tired of seeing the same town over and over again, as there was always something new every time she visited. Charles on the other hand just rested on the girl's arm. She wasn't really interested in the sights, and the cat mostly cared about the little girl's safety. Ever since she remembered, the blonde had been the one to protect them from any kind of danger or trouble that they got into. So she made a commitment to grow strong to protect her family. Wendy smiled as she saw the port up ahead of her. The one thing she loved the most of this town was the ocean view. She ran the last few feet and stopped to see the sun ahead. Too bad that they would be gone. She would have loved to have seen the sun set again like 6 months ago. The young dragon slayer spotted a bench, which she went and sat on to enjoy the gentle sea breeze until it was time to go and meet her father at the station. "You know, Charles, it's too bad we can't stay a little longer," Wendy said to her companion. "I know what you mean. I would have liked to see the sun set again," the small cat responded. "I can't help but wonder what kind of job Naruto has planned out for us to do. Knowing Daddy, he probably will get us a monster extermination or bandit cleanup again," Wendy said, taking a thinking pose. "Or maybe it's the destruction of a book." The blue-haired girl let out a small giggle at the thought of them searching for a book to destroy. Charles just smiled. After the 2 hours had passed, Wendy and Charles met up with Naruto at the train station. Apparently the blonde had already bought the tickets. Nodding to her, the small family made their way into the train and began searching for some empty seats. It would seem that this was the time that everyone rode the train, as there were no empty places. Going to a different compartment that seemed to be a little less crowded, looking around to find 2 open seats, he spotted a pair near the back. The two and a cat arrived at the open seats and sat down. Naruto sat across from Wendy and Charles, looking straight out of outside. The train soon began to move, none saying a single word for over half an hour, until Wendy decided to speak. "Anyo, what is out mission?" the little bluehead asked. "The mission is quite simple actually. I decided since it's almost time to join a guild. Lately I have been sought quite a lot, if you remember the last incident," Naruto said, seeing the girl nod. "Anyways, the mission we have is search and destroy." "So we're looking for something that needs to be destroyed," Charles said as she crossed her arms. "Well, what is that we are looking for then?" "A book," Naruto responded. Both Wendy and Charles face-palmed at the irony. Naruto only raised an eyebrow at their action and wondered what brought this on. "What's so important about this book that it needs to be destroyed?" Wendy asked. "Don't know, it's why we're going to meet up with the client to ask why he wants this book gone," Naruto said. "What I do know is that it has caused many mages to lose their lives." "What could be so tough about destroying a simple book?" the cat asked. "We'll find out as soon as we get there," the blonde responded. About 2 hours later they finally arrived at their destination. As the two got out of the train, Naruto began to wonder why the mission was so hard. Naruto walked toward a large house that he was told that he would find the client in, though when he go to the front door something didn't feel right. The smell he was getting from the house was different than the one from the people inside. He knocked on the door and waited for a few seconds before the door opened. In the doorway stood a tall man wearing a black suit. "Yes?" he asked. "We're here to accept your request," Naruto said. "Ah, yes. Thank you for coming. Please enter so I can explain what I want you to do," the man said as he moved away from the doorway. Naruto, along with his daughter and Charles, followed the client to a large room that was clearly the living room. Now he knew something was wrong. The scent didn't belong to this guy. But he would not say anything until he got more information on the situation. "Please take a seat and make yourselves at home," the man said as he took a seat on the couch. The trio sat down on the couch across from him. "Now first off, my name is Kirby Melon. I'm Uzumaki Naruto," the blonde introduced himself. "These are Wendy and Charles." "A pleasure. Would you mind if I asked which guild you're from, since I didn't get the notice saying someone had taken my request?" Kirby asked. "We're independent mages. I heard about this request in another town while I was searching for something," Naruto said. "Now please tell me what it is that is causing you so much trouble is." All I want you to do is destroy the one and only copy of Daybreak that Duke Everlude owns," Kirby said. "Please incinerate it." "What could be so bad about the book that you wish for it to be destroyed?" Charles said. "It's enough. We will go and locate this book that you want destroyed so bad," Naruto said. "Wendy, Charles, let's go." Kirby watched them leave and placed his head on his hands, thinking about what he would do if they were to fail as well. "San, is something the matter?" asked Wendy, slightly worried. That man was lying. There's more to this mission that meets the eye. The scent in that house didn't correspond to him, and the way he said that he wanted us to break into a house to burn a book, Naruto said. That just doesn't sound right. Whatever he's hiding, I'm going to find out, so prepare for a fight. Wendy gave him a nod as she took of her backpack that she wore and pulled out a pair of blue holsters which she placed on her belt. Opening them, she inspected the 2 trench knives that she had been given by her father a while back. "All set," she said, making Naruto chuckled. Now it was time for them to get going to the Duke's house and complete this mission. By the time they arrived, night had fallen. The two, along with Charles, stood on a tree branch watching to see how the security ran in this place. After an hour, Naruto made his move. Jumping from the tree, he used his chakra to stick to the wall of the house. Charles used her wings to fly Wendy over to Naruto. Using chakra, the blonde began to walk to the closest window and peeked inside, only to see a storage room. Shaking his head, he kept on walking to the next window, which led to kitchen. Another bust. This went on until he found what he was looking for, the library. Using wind chakra, he sent it through the palm of his hand into the window glass, cutting through it like if it were paper. Once the window was gone, he jumped in and landed on the floor below. Next to him landed Wendy, landed next to him. Looking around to see anyone was the first thing he did. He however spotted the book he was here for. Before he could make a move, he felt the ground tremble, forcing him to grab the girl and jump. Out of the ground came the biggest woman and ugliest he had ever seen in his new life, but the signature he got from her was different. "So you dodge, no matter, I will defeat you in honor of my master," she said as she began to submerge into the ground. "I don't think so," Naruto said as he punched the floor, causing it to crater in and forcing the woman to jump out. "You're stronger than the others that have come here," the fat lady said, "but no matter, I will still defeat you." Before Naruto could say a comeback, something came up from behind, making him roll out of the way as a large frying pan crashed into his former spot. He saw that 2 more people had joined the battle. Wendy appeared next to Naruto, trench knives drawn out. "I guess now is a good time to use this," Naruto said as he pulled out a small golden key, opened the gate of the ram, Ares. A flash of light blinded everyone in the room. When it died down, next to the summoner stood a girl with pink hair with horns. She wore a white cotton dress and had her right hand over her mouth. "Sorry, how can I help you?" she asked. "Ares, can you hold the big women back while Wendy and I take care of these 2 idiots?" he said. "Yes, I'm sorry, I will do my best," Ares said as she walked to the large woman. The fight didn't last too long as Naruto shot forward, slamming his fist into the man who was carrying a large frying pan. Wendy used her vernier to move fast and punched the other man's temple, knocking him out in a single blow. It was at this moment that Duke Everlude appeared from a hole in the ground. Naruto, whom felt the vibrations of the Duke, move out of the way just as the man shot towards him. When the Duke was next to him, the blonde did a spinning heel kick, hitting the short man in the chest, thus sending him flying in the wall, where he then slumped to the ground unconscious. Naruto shook his head in disappointment. This was the mission that killed many mages. These guys were nothing but a joke, and he looked over his shoulder and saw Ares bowing as she apologized to the fat woman. Tired of this mission, he went over to the stool that held the book he came after. As soon as his hand touched it, he felt a large amount of magic in it. Whoever wrote it had used magic to hide something in it. Whatever it was, he was going to find out what it is. Flaring his magic, he sent a wave of it into the book. Instantly, letters and sentences shot out of the book and spiraled around Naruto. When all returned to normal, he looked at the book again. The title had changed. It now read, "Dear Kabi." Shaking his head, he opened the book and began to read. He was shocked, to say the least, at what he was reading. His eyes fell on the Duke before closing the book. "Ares, thanks for your help," Naruto said as he dismissed his stellar spirit. He turned to Wendy next, who was talking to the white cat. "Wendy, we need to go and have a small chat with our client." The bluehead nodded. She followed Naruto as he left the library, heading to the front door. Once out of the open air again, the trio walked the path back to the town. No one said a word, but the blonde was agitated for some reason. At last they arrived at the place that the client was staying. Naruto knocked on the door and didn't have to wait long before the door opened. Kirby was stunned to see the blonde back so soon. Not he was surprised he was still alive, since not one of the mages had succeeded to come back. When Naruto showed the man the book, he demanded for it to be destroyed, that is, until he saw the title. That he took the book and began to read. Soon the man was in tears as he read the book. He then went to explain how it was his father who wrote it. For 3 years he was away, and when he came back the man had cut off his arms. Kirby told Naruto how grateful he was, but he had no money pay them for their services. The blonde sighed as he knew that this was the reason that man's scent wasn't anywhere in the house. Shaking his head, Naruto told him that it was fine. Kirby apologized for making him so hard and not having money to pay. An hour later, we find Naruto and his team leaving the town behind on foot. After leaving the client's rented house, he took the decision of going on foot. He didn't really have a destination on mind at the moment, so he was going to travel through the mountain range. Wendy and Charles stopped walking when they felt something approach. The blonde also stopped as he looked back at his companions. The ground below him burst open, making him jump back. Out of the ground he saw a young woman come out. She had shoulder-length pink hair, wore a maid's outfit. She had chained shackles on her wrist. "And you are?" Naruto asked. "Forgive me," she said as she kneeled down. "I am the celestial spirit Virgo, and I have come to ask thee to be my new summoner." "A stellar spirit? Well, this is a new one. I didn't know that spirits would seek out summoners," Naruto said. "Sure, why not? This way Ares won't be alone." "Thank you, my lord," Virgo said as she handed Naruto her golden key. Well, let's get down to the contract. 2 days later, Team Naruto was walking through a large valley. The blonde was thinking about the next job that he would have to do. Wendy was having a conversation with Jellal about a new spell that she was trying to master and how close she was. Just as they rounded a corner, a loud roar filled the air. Naruto looked around trying to find out the direction from which it came. The blue head closed her eyes and tried to read the waves to see if she could locate the source. Odo-san, it came from the east, at least half a mile away, Wendy said. I see, Naruto said. Wendy, I'm going ahead, catch up as soon as you can. Right, the girl responded as her surrogate father took off running in the direction she pointed him in. While running to see the source of the roar, he could feel a large amount of magic gathering in the sky. It was the same he felt all those years ago. The same energy he could sense every now and then, anima, the powerful magic that Jellal left them to go chased. As he got closer, he could read 2 other magical energies. When he finally got to the place, he saw a large monkey-like monster raising its arm over its head. Beneath it was a girl no older than 15. She has short snowy white. He could see she had blue eyes. She wore a short red dress with a white collar and bow. Up on her arms above her elbows, she wore gold rings with a pale pink fabric flowing down from it. She also wore tall, black socks and brown shoes. Overall, she was rather cute. He turned his attention over to another person. She looked like an older version of the girl in front of the beast. She had white hair tied in a ponytail with a pink bow. She had the same blue eyes. She wore a black sleeveless top that showed her ample bust, a mid-thigh purple skirt, long black socks and black shoes. If the girl in front of the beast was cute, this one was smoking hot. He just could tear his eyes away from her, and he could feel the heat rising to his cheeks. Shaking his head from any perverted thought that were starting to form, he glanced back at the beast. The time he spent checking the girl out cost him as he saw it hit the younger girl, sending her flying. Lisana. He heard the older girl shout. Cursing under his breath, Naruto jumped from his place towards the girl, successfully catching her bridal style. He used his wind chakra to push himself in the direction of the other girl. Landing on the ground, he placed the girl in his arms down and brought his hand to her neck, checking her pulse. He sighed in relief when he felt her still alive. It was at this moment that he felt a strange pull on her, the same feeling as the anima. Remembering what Jellal had told him, he began a chant that would negate the foreign magic. After a few seconds, the anima receded, leaving the girl alone. Lisana. Naruto heard the other girl call her. Looking up from his position, he saw the girl had moved from her place to be next to her younger sister. She's still alive, Naruto assured her. For the moment, she will die if we don't her medical attention soon. But we won't be going anywhere with that thing still here. Elf ni si cha-chan. A soft voice called. Naruto glanced at the girl on the ground and saw tears in her eyes as she looked at the incoming beast. It was as if she was calling it. What does she mean? The blonde asked. That beast is our brother, he's using takeover magic, the older girl responded. I see, so it's not some wild beast going berserk, it's that he can't control his magic, Naruto deducted. This make things easier. Lisana. Lisanna, open your eyes. The white-haired beauty shouted as her sister closed her eyes. Shit, she won't make it, her wounds are rather extensive, Naruto said as a shadow loomed over them. The blonde quickly turned around just to see the beast raise his arm, making 3 hand signs. As fast as he could, he released an air bullet, sending the monster flying back. The older whitehead watched in fascination as the blonde boy sent her brother flying with a single spell, not one that she was familiar with though. Naruto. A voice called out. The attention turned to a white cat with wings flying to them. In her arms was a blue-haired girl. Wendy. Jellal. Good timing, Naruto called as his daughter landed a few feet away and ran to him. Sorry, we're late, Wendy said. No time, listen, see the girl behind me. I want you to heal her, she's in really bad shape, Naruto told her. Will do too, San, she said as she went to heal Lisana. Meanwhile, the older girl had her mouth wide open. She had just heard that the little girl was a healer, but what shocked her most was what the girl called him. How could he be her father? He wasn't that much older than she was, so there was no way he could be her father. Naruto walked over to the fallen beast as it was standing up. He raised his hand and in a flash of light a sword appeared in his hand. It was at least the same size of him. It had a scaly grip, a skull-designed pommel, and the blade itself seemed to be wrapped in white bandages. Lee-sana's older sister stared at the strangest sword she had ever seen. Another thing that drew her attention was the fact that he re-equipped faster than even her guildmate Urza. The beast let out another ferocious roar at Naruto, who only grinned at him. "Don't hurt him please," shouted the girl. Naruto turned to her and nodded. The beast saw this as an opportunity and immediately attacked. Naruto's attention returned to the possessed mage and raised Samahata to block the incoming fist. When the fist made contact with the blade, a strange sensation coursed through his giant body, almost as if someone was sucking out all of his magic. Deep inside the subconsciousness of the beast, a floating spirit of a white-haired man began to awaken. When he did, he could feel the control of the beast being drawn away. All of this made him wonder what was going on. Feeling the control of the beast wavering, he pushed all of his willpower forward in order to take control of his body back. Outside, Naruto could sense that something was also fighting the beast from the inside. Tightening his grip on Samahata, he willed it to drain the beast faster. However, the possessed beast went even more berserk. "Kuso!" Naruto cussed under his breath. At this rate, someone is going to get injured or worse, killed. The white-haired girl watched in horror as her brother went into a worse state of possession. The next thing she was the blonde throw the sword into the air and brought his hands together and went through a set of strange signs. "Wood style. Deep root bindings," she heard the blonde shout. The ground below them began to shake as roots shot out, wrapping around the beast. Once wrapped in the roots, he was then brought down to the ground with the roots tighten even more around the beast body. The possessed Elfman was violently shaking as he tried to regain control over his body. After minutes of struggling, the beast began to howl as if in pain as it managed to rip some of the roots and gripped his head in pain. Soon a golden light engulfed him. In a final flash of light, the beast finally vanished and in its place laid a teen boy. He had the same white hair as the girls. His clothes were torn in many places. His shirt was missing also. "Elfman!" he heard the girl behind call out. Soon she ran past him to be next to the boy. He on the other hand turned to see Wendy doing her best to heal Lee-sana. He could tell that she was growing tired as she was not used to healing to such a length. Going over to her, he placed his hand on her shoulder. Without a word, she understood what he wanted. Letting the light in her palms die down, she slumped onto the ground, dead tired. Naruto kneeled next to Lee-sana and ran through a few hand signs before his palms began to glow a soft green light. Next he placed his palms on the girl's chest. The other girl was currently attending to her brother, who was not heavily injured, but his magic reserves were depleted, meaning that he wouldn't be waking anytime soon. 20 minutes had passed when Naruto finally allowed the healing jutsu to die down. He had managed to heal the girl to the point that she was out of danger. She would make a full recovery in time, but for the next 72 hours she would need to be under observation to make sure she didn't fall into the danger zone again. "There, she just needs to rest for now," Naruto said as he stood up to stretch. "Thank you," he heard the older sister say. "It was no problem, but we shouldn't celebrate yet. I need to keep an eye on your sister for the next 72 hours to make sure she's okay," Naruto said. "Also, I never did get your name." "Mira Jane," she responded. Naruto, the blonde, introduced himself. "It seems that we won't be going anywhere tonight." Mira Jane nodded in agreement. She was still looking at her sister, however. She had come so close to losing the last of her family today. She turned to see Naruto going through a series of hand signs. She was confused as she had never seen such magic before. Sure, there was Lackey Alieta who could use wood magic too, but Naruto's was different. "Wood style. 4-pillar house jutsu," Naruto called out, slamming his right palm on the ground. Mira's jaw hit the ground as she saw a large 2-story house rise from the ground. Now she was curious. This wood magic of his was way more advanced than Lackey's. "All right. Let's move them inside," Naruto said as he went over to where Elfman was and picked him up. Mira watched worried as Naruto moved her brother into the house. Inside, he reached into his pouch and pulled out 4 cards. Naruto then sent some chakra into them before tossing them onto the floor. In a small cloud of white smoke, 4 beds appeared. Taking the closest one, he placed the big teen on his shoulder onto it. His hand started to glow green again as he ran a scan of the boy's body. He didn't have that much damage on him except for a few bruises. The only thing that was wrong was that his magic levels were low and he would be out for a few hours. Naruto walked out of the house to see Mira running her hand through Lee-sana's hair as the girl slept. Smiling at the sight, he looked over at where Wendy was resting. He was right when he guessed that she would so tired that she would fall asleep. Shaking his head, Naruto made a single clone to move Wendy into the house, while went over to Lisana. "Let's move her inside," Naruto said as he picked up the Lisana bridal style. Mira Jane followed the blonde inside the house and saw that it was quite spacious. There were 4 beds in the room already. 2 were occupied by her brother and Naruto's companion. The blonde moved to the 3rd bed where he laid the sleeping Lisana. Mira took one last look at the blonde whose hand was glowing green again and on top of her sister's chest before she walked out. Outside she saw that there was a fire already burning. Naruto walked out of the house and saw that the fire he had ordered a clone to build was burning. He looked around and could see a smoking village in the distance. If he had to guess, it was probably around 10 miles away, give or take a mile. The village had probably been attacked by the beast that had taken over Elfman. He put all that in the back of his mind for later. Instead he opted to see if Mira Jane was okay. Naruto found her sitting on a rock 10 feet away from the house, a worried expression on her face, something that he didn't like for some reason. "A jewel for your thoughts," he said as he approached her. Mira looked up from her place and then went back to looking at the ground. "It's nothing. I may not know you well enough, but I can tell something is bothering you," Naruto said as he sat down across from her as he pulled out a small box from his pouch. "It's best if you talk about. Also, let me see that arm of yours. I came close to losing not only my little sister but also my little brother, all because of a stupid mistake," she said as she let him look at her arm, making her blush at the contact. "After our parents died, I swore to grow strong in order to keep them safe, but I'm still weak if I couldn't even properly use my takeover magic. I'm a failure as an older sister." Naruto watched as the girl before him just broke down in tears. He was currently bandaging her broken hand. "I don't know about you, but I would have loved to have someone to keep me safe when I was growing up. Just because you made a mistake mean that you have to beat yourself up. In the end, nothing bad happened. That's because you showed up and helped us. Lisana would have died and Elfman would probably not return to normal, and if he did he would never forgive himself for killing Lisana," Mira continued as tears streamed down her face. "I'm not very good with these sorts of things, but remember that every living thing will one day die," Naruto said as he finished with her arm. "In this occasion that didn't occur, so quit beating yourself up and just be happy that they are alive." Mira Jane watched the blonde with wide eyes as she remembered that Lisana had told the same thing about death to Elfman the day his parakeet died. For some reason she found her face heating up and her heart speeding up. She just then sat there thinking about what she'd been told. He was right, nothing had happened, so she shouldn't sad, she should be relieved that he arrived to help them even if they didn't know each other. He reached into a case that was on his belt and pulled out 3 cards from it. Out of the cards he summoned a bottle of water, a kettle, and 10 cups of ramen. She decided to go and check on her siblings in the house. He filled the kettle with the water and placed it on the burning embers, and waited for it to boil. It took it 5 minutes for the water to finally boil. Mira chose this time to come out of the house to see Naruto grumbling about how instant ramen wasn't instant if it needed 3 minutes to cook, while poured boiling water into the 10 ramen cups in front of him. She couldn't help but giggle for some odd reason. "So which guild do you belong to?" asked Mira as she took a seat near the fire. "None. We're independent mages," Naruto responded. "By the mark one saw on Lisana, I take it you're from Fairy Tail?" "Yep," Mira said. "I was just recently made an S-class mage not too long ago, and this was supposed to be my first S-rank mission." "I see. Even though you're young you have large magic reserves," Naruto told her as he passed her a cup of ramen and picked one for himself. The two ate in quiet. "Can I ask you why the little girl called you father, since she seems to be at least 10 years old and you don't seem to be older than 17? asked Mira. "She took it upon herself to call me that ever since I rescued her from some bandits nearly 5 years ago," Naruto said. Mira wondered if she were to be captured if someone would do the same for her. The picture of Naruto appeared in her head instantly. "Well, I think that I will rest now if you don't mind," she said, getting up. "What will you do tomorrow?" asked Naruto. "We will return to Magnolia Town," Mira said. "Hope you don't mind me tagging along. I don't feel comfortable in letting Lisana travel with someone with no medical experience," the blonde said. "I would like that," the whitehead said. "Also, before you go I want to talk to you about something," Naruto said, making her stop. 2 days later, Team Naruto and Team Mira Jane stood just outside the gates of Magnolia Town. Naruto had to whistle at the size of the town. It was larger than even Konoha was. There were people happily doing their business. This was the first time he and his family had ever been in Magnolia. Not wanting to waste any more time, the two teams began to walk into the city, heading to the magic guild that resided in this place. As they walked, they could tell people were looking at them. It wasn't every day that you see a large group of mages walking in like this. Naruto walked next to Mira Jane, who had her arm in a sling. He was carrying Lisana on his back, whom had her arms wrapped around the blonde's neck. Wendy walked next to Elfman with Charl resting on her head. Elfman had his right side of his face wrapped in bandages and he wore one of Naruto's spare cloaks. "This place is amazing," Naruto commented. "Nay, is this your first time in Magnolia Town, Naruto-kun?" asked Lisana from her resting place. "It is. We have been nearly all over the continent, but we always evaded the major towns that had a magic guild since I know that I wouldn't be able to find any good jobs," he responded. "So how much further until we get to the guild?" "Not far now," it was Mira who responded. "We just need to cross the bridge and then walk up the hill and we'll be there." "Naruto-san, have you decided if you're going to join yet?" Elfman asked. "I don't know," Naruto lied, as he had already decided that he would. I want us to join a place, that way we won't be targeted as much anymore, but the thought of being in one place sounds troublesome when we're used to traveling as much. But still, maybe you should just give it a try, who knows, you may find a reason to like it," Lisana said with a grin as she winked at her sister, who blushed. Naruto gave a nervous laugh. Wendy wondered what she meant by that comment and thought about something that her father was missing. She glanced at Mira Jane, who was looking away with a pink tint on her cheeks, then it hit her what she and father were missing. Well, more like her, a mother. A mischievous smirk appeared on her face that only Charl noticed and wondered what was going through her head. A shiver went down both Mira Jane's and Naruto's back. The rest of the trip was made in relative quietness. After crossing the bridge, the group made their way up to the guild. When he finally stood in front of the guild, he couldn't help but show his surprise at the size and style. It was an Arabian-style building with the guild symbol on a flag. "Nice place," Naruto said. "Just wait till you see the inside, Naruto-kun," Lisana said. "Just be ready in case there's a fight going on again," Mira said. Mira Jane pushed the guild's door open and walked in. Elfman followed her, and last Naruto, along with Lisana, Wendy, and Charl, entered. If the blonde thought that the outside was amazing, the inside was even better. People were sitting at tables, chatting and drinking happily with their friends. He could tell that many had a large amount of magic while others had a decent amount. However, he could tell that one stood above the rest. Looking for the source, he saw a rather short man sitting at the bar's counter smoking a pipe. That was it. He was the one who was letting out such a strong amount of magic. The amount he was letting out was almost at his level without having to use his sage mode and tailed cloak. "We're home," Lisana called out. Every head in the building turned their attention to the door and many questions began to fly in their heads. They all had same thought going through their heads. What had happened to Mira Jane's team as they saw their state and who the blonde was and the little girl with them, but many turned their attention to the white cat with them. The master turned his attention to the team and began to panic as he saw the state they were in, but what worried him the most was the state of Lisana. He could feel that her magic reserves were low and that she was hurt. He was, however, curious about the ones that were with. Took only one glance at the blonde to tell him that he was no pushover. His magic reserves rivaled his easily and they were still growing. He could sense something stronger deep with him. The little girl who was with the cat was also strong. She also seemed to release an aura that resembled his old friend Porlyuzuka. The master watched as they made their way over to him. "We're back, master," Mira Jane told the old man. "Welcome back, Mira. I see that you didn't come back alone though," the master told her as he took a drag of his pipe. "Well, we ran into some big-time trouble," Mira responded. "Not that I mind, but is there any place I can put Lisana at?" asked the blonde. "Here, I'll take her to the medical wing," Elfman said, taking the girl of Naruto, who pouted at being removed. "Yes, go ahead, Elfman. Mira here will tell me what happened and as to why they're here," master told the young man. As Elfman left, Mira Jane began to tell the short man everything that happened. To say that he was shocked was an understatement. He couldn't believe what had happened. He had virtually sent 3 young mages to their death. He didn't know how they would have survived if Naruto hadn't arrived. That was another thing that intrigued him. Apparently this boy was capable of using wind magic and re-equip magic, which were rather rare types. "I see," the master nodded his head. "Tell me, Naruto-san, what do you plan to do now?" "Well, I was planning on joining a guild," the blonde responded. "Very well, then would like to join Fairy Tail," I'm sure that both Mira and Lisanna would like it if you and your teammates joined us. I don't know, Naruto said, maybe, but first I have a request, Master Makarov. What is it, my boy? The short master asked. I would like a fight against you, Naruto said. The guild went instantly quiet. Everyone stared at the blonde as if he'd grown a second head. How crazy was he challenging the master to a fight? Makarov stared at the blonde as if trying to see if he had any ulterior moves, then he chuckled until it became a full-out laugh. If that's what you want, then I will accept, but, one question, why? Makarov asked, responded Naruto. A few months ago I had a small dispute with the mages from Phantom Lord, Naruto said, making Makarov eyes open wide. I wish to see where I stand against one of the 10 wizard saints. Very well, follow me. We can't have our spar here or the guild will surely be reduced to rubble, Makarov said, standing up and going to the door. The rest of the guild couldn't believe what was going on. This boy comes into their guild and challenges their master. A few of them wondered what was so special of that blonde. Up on the second floor, a blonde-haired mage with a scar on his face watched as his grandfather was challenged. A grin appeared on his face. He had to see this fight. He disappeared in a bolt of lightning. A few hundred yards away from the guild in the town, Makarov and Naruto stood facing each other. They could see that the entire guild had come to watch. The old man could even see that his grandson, who never really attended spars between mages, had come to watch. Shall we start, Naruto-san? Asked Makarov. Let's, Naruto responded, taking a stance. In the crowd, a raven-haired boy who was only wearing a pair of black pants and no shirt stood next to a brown-haired beauty who wore some rather provocative attire. So Kana, who do you think will win? The raven-haired boy asked. Do you even have to ask? Gray. Master will win. The girl known as Kana said. I'm just glad that neither Natsu and Urza are here. Natsu would have challenged this guy. Yeah, I don't even want to know what Urza would do, Gray told her. Back at the match, neither combatant had made their move yet. The guild was anticipating seeing the biggest match ever. Then it began. Naruto ran towards the short man, his hand cocked back to punch. Makarov, seeing this, raised his hand and it instantly enlarged. The blonde saw this and the image of his old friend Shoji came to mind, since this was similar to his expansion jutsu. Channeling chakra in the soles of his feet, he shot forward like a rocket. Master was surprised at the sudden burst of speed and made a fist with his hand, which he then brought down straight at Naruto. Naruto jumped over the fist, launched his own at the wizard saint. Makarov jumped back as the blonde's fist made contact with the ground. His eyes widened so much that they threatened to fall off as he saw the place that he stood was reduced to nothing but a large crater. This boy had some crazy strength if he cold such a large crater. Holy shit, said Gray with his mouth wide open. You can say that again, an older man next to him said. You have amazing strength, Makarov said. I guess I have to really give it my all. Naruto watched as he began to float in the air. The next thing was the multiple golden magic circles appeared all around the shorter man. Knowing that he was about to use a spell, Naruto brought his hands together and began to do a chain of hand signs. As soon as he landed on the last one, multiple beams of light shot out of the circles. Earth style. Mud wall jutsu, called out Naruto as he spit out a large amount of mud from his mouth that turned into a wall. The beams of light struck the wall of dirt. The wall did its job and took a few hits, but it was overpowered and the attack broke through, creating a cloud of dust. Whoa, he can do earth magic, Kana said. Yeah, but I've never seen someone actually spit out mud from their mouth like he did, said a man with a strange hairstyle and smoking a pipe. Have you, Macau? No, Macau responded. That kid is full of tricks. First he made a crater with his bare hands, now this. The dust soon cleared, revealing that the blonde was no longer in the same place. Everyone started to look for him but was nowhere to be seen. Makarov landed on the ground and used his sensor ability to locate his opponent. It was at this moment that his eyes widened and forced him to jump just as a pair of hands shot out the ground below him. Naruto, seeing that his headhunter jutsu failed, rose out of the ground and stared at the floating man. Almost got me with that one, the old man said. Naruto took in a deep breath as his body began to glow, then he vanished. All eyes began to search again. All the searching stopped when a loud smack of colliding flesh resounded. All turn up to see Naruto with his fist collided against Makarov's cheek, sending the poor old man to the ground. What the hell was that? Shouted a female mage with violet-colored hair. That was his swift release, a new voice said. The mages turned their attention to the new voice to see a small white cat coming in their direction along with Wendy. Wendy went and stood next to Laxus, who was rather interested in the technique and waited for the cat to explain it. Swift release? What type of magic is that? Mira asked. A technique that requires him to combine both wind and lighting together, Wendy said. That's crazy, Macau shouted, that should be impossible. Laxus stared at the blonde, that spell was out of this world, he prided himself in his speed, but, here come a total stranger out the blue with the ability to outrun him. There's no way a spell like that would exist without a side effect, thought Laxus. A spell like that wouldn't exist without a drawback. Laxus decided to voice his opinion, drawing the attention to him. You're right, that technique can only be used by those born with what Naruto calls Kekkei Genkei, Charles said. Bloodline limit? Asked Gray. Basically what it means, you need to be born with the genes to use something like that. Charles finished explaining. If you wish to know more, then ask Naruto. They turned their attention to their master as he stood up and wiped a bit of blood from the side of his mouth. That's some speed you got there. I underestimated you. Now I will go to the next level, Makarov said as his body began to expand. Naruto was instantly on the defense as Makarov began launching attacks after enlarging his hands. Naruto had to dodge as he knew that one of those fists would hurt. But as fate would have it, one of the fists managed to land in his chest, sending him into the trees nearby. Looks like Master won, a rather large man said. No, Wendy said. Oto-san is not down yet, it would take more than that to beat him. People soon began to wonder why she called Naruto her father, as he was no way the father of a 10-year-old. They filed that to ask later. Naruto had walked out of the woods wiping a bit of blood from his face. Guess I have to take this to the next level too, Naruto said as his body began to glow. No way, Requip, said Gray as the light faded and Naruto stood there wearing a strange outfit. Naruto now wore a pair of black ninja pants, blue sandals, a black long-sleeve shirt, and a green vest. He also had a black mask covering his lower part of his face. Naruto called forward his magic and sped at the old man, hoping to finish this battle soon. Makarov wondered why he switched from his outfit into a new one. Naruto then began with those strange hand signs again. Wood style. Binding roots, Naruto said. Makarov waited for something to happen, but he was surprised when roots shot out and began to wrap around his large body. He saw the blonde smirk and began to do more strange signs. He can do wood magic too? Lackey, the violet-haired girl said with stars in her eyes. Wind style. Drilling air bullet, Naruto said as he shot a ball of compressed air at the tied-up man. Makarov knew that if he didn't dodge the attack that it would hurt, so he did the only thing he could. Powering up his body grew even more, snapping the roots. He then used his hand to redirect the bullet in another direction. Magic circles appeared around him again. This time the beams of light shot out faster than last time. Naruto used his flexibility to dodge, but one hit him in his right shoulder, which was the turning point, as that one hit stunned him long enough for other beams to hit him, driving him into the ground. At the same time he returned to his normal size. Now it's over, Macau said. Laxus on the other hand was frowning for some reason. Then it hit a large spike in energy came from where Naruto was being drilled into the ground. Shinra Tensai! Shouted Naruto as the beams of light were blasted away by some sort of invisible energy. When the dust that had accumulated dispersed, Naruto stood there. His mask was torn, as was most of his vest and shirt. He then grabbed what remained of his vest and shirt and finished ripping them off his body. Some of the girls in the crowd blushed at the sight of his well-developed torso, while others were drawn to the fist-sized scar above his heart. However, what drew the most attention were his eyes. They were no longer blue. They were now a light purple color with 5 black rings. What's with his eyes? Asked Kana. He's already using his Rinnegan, Wendy said, covering her mouth as she remembered the last time he used those eyes. Rinnegan? Asked Gray and Macau at the same time. I don't know much about them, as Naruto doesn't really use them that much, Charles said. I've seen him use them only once before, to end a fight as soon as possible. But, Wendy said, when he uses his eyes he becomes even stronger. Naruto said his hand, Bansho Tenin. Makarov suddenly felt a strange pull on his body before he went flying straight at Naruto, who cocked his hand back. When he was near enough, the blonde launched his fist into the short man's face, sending him flying back. Everyone wondered what the hell just happened. Naruto, however, didn't stop there. He pointed his arm out again. The fairy tale master landed on the ground and braced himself for when that strange force would pull him again. Flaming arrow missiles. Naruto shouted as his arms separated from his body, only connected by a thick black cord. Out of the cord, missiles shot out, homing on Makarov. Said man was even more curious about the boy. He had some sort of powerful magic that he had never seen before. The first was those strange spells that he did when making those hand signs. Then it was these spells that he was using after he activated those weird eyes of his. Now this. Makarov knew that those things would cause some serious injuries, but he wasn't a member of the 10 wizard saints for nothing. Placing both hands in front of him, various yellow spell circles appeared, taking the blunt force of the attack. Naruto knew that his jutsu had just been blocked. Smiling as the smoke rose, he sprinted forward. Just as he was about to reach the cloud of smoke, he jumped out of the way as a large fist came from above. He wondered how the hell the old man had been able to surprise him. He knew that he would have to up his game. The smoke cleared as Makarov landed on the ground, looking a little tired. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruto said as he made a cross sign. In 3 small clouds of smoke, 3 exact replicas of Naruto appeared, each of them jumping away. What the hell, he can make clones, Kana said. This guy has some powerful magic. Laxus had gone silent. He was enjoying this for some reason. This guy was strong, just what Fairy Tail needed to stay at number. A grin appeared on his face at the thought of having a fight with this guy one day. I think we should end this fight soon, Makarov said. Yeah, Naruto responded. Makarov enlarged his body once again as he jumped at the blonde. Naruto could see the attacks coming and used the minimum amount of work to dodge the attacks. The old man tried to attack the blonde from his blind side, but for some reason he would just dodge them without taking his attention from him. How is he doing that? Makarov asked himself. There is no way he could predict my attacks that are going at him from his blind side. So how is he doing it? Wait, the clones he made earlier aren't attacking me, they're just observing. That's it, they're transferring their sight to him. The question now is how. Could it be telepathy? No, I would sense him using it if he was. Then, it must be sight. That's it, those strange eyes of his must allow him to see what his clones see. Makarov stopped his attacks and landed a few feet away. I see now, the old man said. Those you can see what those clone of yours see, that's how you've been able to dodge the attacks from your blind side. He truly is powerful if he can figure out the Rinnegan's sight-sharing ability so quickly, Naruto thought. He can see what the clones are seeing because of the eyes? Asked an orange-haired mage wearing sunglasses. Ah, Loke, when the hell did you get here? Asked Macau. Just a few moments ago. I arrived at the guild, but it was empty. Well, Elfman was there and he told me that I would find the rest of you here. The now named Loke explained. Something about a fight between master and a newcomer. I'm truly impressed that you managed to figure out the secret of the Rinnegan, Naruto said, but I won't be going down without a fight. Naruto closed his and stood still for around a minute. During the time, Makarov's eyes widened when he felt the boy draw in the land's magic. What the hell is he doing? He's drawing in the magic of the land and balancing it with his own body's magic, Makarov thought. How this possible? No human body is capable contain such amount of power. He wasn't the only one to feel the power that Naruto was drawing in. Some of the more experienced sensing mages felt it too. Naruto soon opened his eyes to see that he still had those purple eyes of his, but there was now a black horizontal bar in the center. There was also some sort of red tint around his eyes. Sage mode, Naruto said. Damn, I still can't control this combination for too long, so I will have to end this as fast as I can, he thought. Makarov could feel the power literally rolling of the boy. It was as if he was fighting the land itself now. Not wanting to find out what all he could do in that form, he began chanting a spell under his breath. Naruto in the meantime was charging his hand with chakra as a blue orb began to form. In seconds the Rasengan was fully formed. He still continued to charge it up to an even higher level, making the orb grow to a super size. The spectators began to back away. They could sense that orb was dangerous, if not for its size then from the amount of magic in it. Naruto ran at the old man, hand raised above his head. His opponent, watching him come, released a powerful light spell. Naruto would not be able to dodge such a large attack, that is until the 3 clones that were made earlier appeared in front of the original, taking the full force of the spell. Naruto took this chance to his advantage. Using his clone's back, he jumped into the air, twirling twice as he sent the large Rasengan forward. Suddenly 3 bright pillars of energy burst from around the smaller man just as the Rasengan crashed into them, creating a massive explosion. The wind that was picked up from the explosion sent most of the fairy tale mages flying back. Some of the stronger ones were only pushed back. A large amount of dust picked up as well as smoke. All the way on Magnolia, the citizens saw that large dome of smoke in the distance and began to worry about who would attack. Some of the mages that were in the crowd were shaking in fear as they could feel the large amount of power radiating in that direction. There were 3 particular mages who were staring at the smoke. One was a short girl around the age of 15 with bright blue hair and greenish-brown eyes. She wore an orange dress with white trimmings. Next to her were 2 males. One was tall and slim with a distinctive hairstyle. The other was a medium-sized teen who wore a hat. "What the hell was that?" asked the taller one. "The hell should I know, Droy?" the smaller male responded. "What do you think, Levi?" "I don't know. I can feel a lot of magic in that direction. Some of the signatures belong to our friends," the girl Levi responded. "Could we have been attacked while we were gone?" Droy asked. "I don't know. Let's go see, Jet, Droy," Levi said as she began running in the direction. Back at the battle, the smoke was finally clearing up. People around were struggling to stand up and some were knocked out. When the smoke finally cleared, they could see both Makarov and Naruto standing up. "You know, I think we're gonna like it here in Fairy Tail," Naruto said. "Well then I guess we'll be having a welcoming party for the 2 of you when we go back," Makarov said. The 2 gave a smile before collapsing at the same time. "So who won?" asked Kana, who had finally gotten up. "I guess it's a draw," Gray answered her question. Naruto was currently sitting at the guild's bar glancing at his surrogate daughter as she showed off her guild mark to Charles. 2 days had passed since his fight against Makarov and he was back to 100%. As for the old man, he had to go back to bed after his friend, poor Lyuzuka, got her hands on him. He and Wendy would need to take on a mission soon as it had been almost a week since their last one. The Bond then watched out of the corner of his eye as the blue-haired girl he met yesterday walked towards Wendy. If he wasn't mistaken, her name was Levi McGarden, a 15-year-old mage. The blonde saw her make small talk with the younger bluehead in the white Nako. A smile formed on his face knowing that his surrogate daughter was starting to make new friends. Next he sensed someone sit on the stool next to his. Naruto turned his head and saw Mira Jane sitting there with a slight pink tint on her cheeks, making her look rather cute. "Is there something that you needed, Mira-chan?" asked the blonde with a smile. "Well, since Lisanna and Elfman are out due to injury, I thought that maybe we could go on a mission together along with Wendy and Charles, of course," Mira said, making Naruto chuckle. "I guess since Master will be in bed for the next few days we could go and do a quick mission, but I think it's best if we leave Wendy and Charles here," Naruto said. "I think she's finally making friends." "Didn't she have friends?" asked the white-haired beauty. "Not really, we moved around so much that we barely stayed any time in a town to make friends, so we didn't have many. I mean, sure, we have a few from other guilds, but we don't see them that much at all," said Naruto as he stood up. "Come, let's go choose a mission as I am getting a little bored." Charles, who was sipping tea out of her teacup that she got from who knows where, sat listening to Wendy tell her new friend Levi about her travels. She watched as that girl Mira Jane approached Naruto with a blush on her face as she began to talk to him about something. However, since she was too far away, she couldn't hear them. The cat saw Naruto stand up and go over to the request board followed by Mira. By the looks of it, it would seem as they were about to on a mission. Knowing that he didn't call them over by now, then they would be staying behind here in the guild until he returned. Charles saw him pick a flyer and gave to Mira, who went to report it so they could get going while Naruto walked in their direction. "Wendy," Naruto called out. The blue-haired girl turned her head to look at him. "Hi, Tusan? I will be going on a mission with Mira. I want you and Charles to stay here and wait for me to return," the blonde informed her. "Levi, I would like to ask you to take care of her until I return if you don't mind." "Of course, that way I can get to know her more," Levi said with a large smile on her face and a happy tone in her voice. "Thank you," Naruto responded before patting Wendy's head, then left to join Mira, who was waiting for him at the door. "Ready?" asked Mira. "Let's go," was the response. Wendy watched her father leave with Lisanna's elder sister. She felt strange to not be going with him on a mission. But at the same time she was happy to not have to go on a mission so soon after arriving at the guild. On the road of Magnolia, Naruto walked next to Mira Jane as they headed to the train station to catch the next train of Onibus Town. The mission that they had chosen was the extermination of a group of bandits that were terrorizing the roads leading to town. From what the mission stated, it said that there were about 30 of them, so it wouldn't be too difficult for them. Mira Jane is an S-class mage, and one doesn't achieve that kind of status without good reason, and he himself would be considered an even higher rank than S-class if he went all out. When they arrived at the station, Mira went to buy the tickets that they would need to travel. Naruto just waited by watching people walk by. It didn't take long for his partner to return with the tickets, and both went to board the train. From the tickets, it seemed that the girl got first-class tickets. The blonde followed the white-head as she led him to the front of the train to their compartments. When they got there, the two entered and sat across each other. "So what's the real reason to why you wanted me to do a mission with you?" asked Naruto. "I just wanted to thank you again for saving my little sister and brother. I don't know what I would have done if something had happened to the two of them," Mira responded, "and this way I think we could get to know each other some more, and I could tell you about the rest of the people in the guild." "Okay. Then how should we do this?" "Okay. How about name, likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future?" Naruto said. "Here, I'll go first. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like my daughter Wendy, Charles, ramen, training. I dislike rapist, perverts, and dark mages. As for my dreams for the future, I don't really know at the moment." "Okay. My name is Mira Jane Strauss. I like my younger siblings Elfman and Lisanna. My magic take over. I dislike Urza. As for my dreams, to be the strongest in fairy tale and have a family of my own," Mira Jane said. "Who's Urza?" the blonde asked, as he was sure he had heard the name before, but couldn't place a finger on it. "Urza Scarlet is fairy tale's strongest female mage. She's on a mission at the moment, so you didn't get to meet her yet," Mira said. "Also, Natsu wasn't there, a good thing, or else he would have challenged you to a fight, and neither was Mistogen, but he's never around and is very mysterious." "Natsu What kind of magic can he do?" asked the blonde. "He's a dragon slayer, the fire dragon slayer," Mira responded. "Oh, Ignil's son," Naruto said. "Ignil? You know him?" asked the girl with a surprised tone that someone knew about Natsu's father. "Not personally. I heard of Ignil from another source, not to mention Wendy is also a dragon slayer, more precise the sky dragon slayer," continued Naruto. "Then that's 2 dragon slayers in our guild," Mira deduced. "More like 3 with me, but I won't tell anyone just yet, and the only people who know about that are Wendy, Charles, and Jellal, wherever the hell he's at," thought Naruto, but for some reason that guy Laxus, I think was his name, also let out some strange magic vibes that felt almost like my dragon slayer magic but different. "Is something the matter? You just go quiet all of the sudden?" Mira asked. "No, just thinking about the 2 dragon slayers," Naruto said. "Anyways, we should get some rest before we arrive at Onibus." Mira nodded her head in agreement as she lay on the seat she was on and closed her eyes. Naruto glanced at her, and for some reason he felt his heart skip a beat. Ever since they met, he just couldn't help but look at her at any chance he got. Could he be falling in love again? Sure, he died in the elemental nations and couldn't go back, but he was sure that he would always be faithful to Kuretsuchi since he had a real daughter with her. He was so confused at the moment. Maybe he just felt attracted to her because she reminded him of his wife. In the end, he just laid down to rest, as it would be a 10-hour ride to get to Onibus. By the time they go to Onibus town, the sun had already set, so the two decided to go and find a hotel to spend the night before going to find the client in the morning. As they walked down the streets, Naruto spotted the theater where people were just leaving from. Coincidentally, the hotel was close to the place, and just as they passed, Naruto spotted a familiar face among the crowd of people along with 2 others. Knowing what would happen if he was spotted by them, he grabbed Mira Jane's hand and dragged her the rest of the way. He wanted to get out of the streets so fast that he failed to notice the blush on the girl's face. At the hotel, he got 2 rooms for them. After parting ways in the hall of the hotel, Naruto went into his room and headed straight for the window to see down onto the streets. Down below, he could see 2 of the tree persons he had spotted earlier standing talking. He narrowed his eyes as he tried to locate the 3rd one. Then he saw her arrive, a pink-haired woman wearing a long, elegant kimono that showed off part of her cleavage. They're none other than members of the Dark Guild Death's Head Caucus Guild, a guild he had the unfortunate pleasure to run into, as they had tried to recruit him. This made him wonder what they were doing here, as they never went to public places such as a theater unless there was some sort of bounty on someone's head. He could still remember when he first met them. He had done a rookie mistake and underestimated their power. Vilvatus Taka's hair magic and guitar magic took him by surprise, along with the owl-headed Fukuro, whose jet magic and absorption magic nearly defeated him. Then there was the beautiful yet deadly Ikaruga, who destroyed 5 of his swords each with a single swing of her sword. That had been his first encounter with a powerful team of dark mages, and since then he made sure to not understatement any opponent. But at the moment he didn't want to have to deal with them, so he was hoping to not run into them the next day. Shaking his head, he moved away from the window and decided to go to bed early, even after sleeping on the train. The next day he met with Mira Jane, and the two went to have something to eat before going to the client's office. On their way to find a place to eat, Naruto could see very little people walking in the streets, and the last time he was here the place was bustling with activity. Something was indeed wrong, and he was thinking that the bandits weren't the problem, but he would not say anything to Mira for the time being. After the two finished eating breakfast at a small restaurant, they went to find the client, who happened to be the mayor of Onibus. The mayor was happy to see them, especially Naruto, who had helped him in the past. After Naruto showed the mayor his guild mark that was on his wrist, the man was surprised that the blonde had finally joined a guild and was happy for him. The mayor then began to tell them about the bandit group that had taken over the road that led to the town, scaring away tourists and other visitors. He didn't have much information about them except that there were about 30 of them. Naruto thanked the man and excused himself and Mira. "So what do you think?" asked Mira as soon as they were back outside. "Something doesn't make sense. If there were regular bandits, then the local authorities would have no problem dealing with them unless there is something that the mayor hid from us," Naruto informed her. "Just be ready for anything." The two soon left the town, following the path for about 2 miles before Naruto stopped and sat on the ground. Mira watched him sit still for a few minutes. The familiar sense that she had felt when he fought Master Makarov returned, and it felt as if Naruto was becoming one with the earth. When he reopened his eyes, they had become golden rectangles, and there was something that looked like red makeup around his eyes. "I can sense them. Just half a mile away. There is over 40 actually, and 10 of them seem to be mages, so we are going to be in the battle of our lives," Naruto said to the girl, who had her eyes wide open in shock. "How strong are they, or can you not tell?" she asked him. 6 of them seem to be around average, but the other 4 are at least S-class level, the blonde responded. "This isn't a regular low-rank mission, this ought to be an S-class mission." "Then why would the mayor lie about the mission?" Mira asked. "I don't know, but this is starting to remind me of the first mission I took back in the Land of Waves," Naruto muttered, making Mira wonder where this Land of Waves was at. "Then maybe I can be of some assistance," said a male's voice from behind, making Mira jump and turn around rapidly. Naruto didn't show any sign of being surprised, as he had felt the man approaching them for a while now. Mira said. Back at the guild back in Fairy Tail, Makarov had finally gotten up after the beating his pink-haired friend Porlyuzuka had given him for being an irresponsible master. It had happened after he had given Naruto and his daughter their guild stamps that the woman had arrived, since she had heard the explosions of their fighting along with sensing the magic that was released during the fight. Hell, he didn't have the chance to throw the welcoming party for the two, but that could wait until both Natsu and Urza came back from their missions. Although he did wondered how the two would react once they found out that the newcomer had fought him to a draw. Makarov knew that Natsu would challenge the blonde to a fight immediately, and he wasn't sure what Urza would do just yet. His train of thought was broken when he arrived at the guild and saw that everyone was having a good time. However, he was looking for someone in specific, but he was nowhere to be found. He did see the small blue-haired girl who was talking to Levi along with the rest of her team Shadow Gear. "Wendy," the old man called as he walked over to her. Wendy's attention was drawn away from her chat with Shadow Gear to the short old man. "Yes," responded the little girl. "I was wondering where your father has gone," Makarov said. "San left with Mira Jane on a mission," Wendy informed him. "I see. Well then, I guess we'll talk about his rank and if he will form a team once he gets back from the mission," Makarov said as he nodded his head. Out of curiosity, which mission did he take? It was the one in Onibus town, something about bandits terrorizing the area. It was Mikao who had overheard the conversation respond. "What?" the master said. "Is something wrong, master?" asked Levi, slightly worried at the old man's reaction. "I was looking into that request prior his arrival. Apparently some dark mages have been seen in the area," Makarov said. "I know Naruto is strong as he didn't go all out in our fight, and Mira is strong in her own right as well. But even those two will have a hard time in fighting against 10 dark mages. Damn it, where's Urza when you need her, or even Laxus? Tu-san will be fine, Wendy said, drawing attention. Tu-san has another skill that he didn't show during the fight, so if the fight gets tough he will use it to keep Mira safe. Are you sure? The worried master asked. Yep, she responded. I hope you're right. Back with Naruto and Mira Jane. You're Mistogen, Mira Jane said with wide eyes at the sight of Fairy Tail's most mysterious member. The man, who only Master and possibly Laxus had ever seen within the guild when he came to turn in his mission report and get new missions. He never showed his face as it was covered with a handkerchief and had those full body clothes and magic staffs on his back. She couldn't believe that he was standing right in front of her without putting her to sleep. I was wondering when you were going to show yourself, Naruto said. Mistogen, I take it that's the name you go by these days then? It has been a while, hasn't Naruto, and yes, that is the name I go by for a reason that I will share with you in private, the mysterious man responded. It's a pleasure meeting you, Mira Jane. Mira kept quiet as she didn't know how to respond. The man everyone wanted to know about was in front of her and was casually talking with Naruto. That was another thing that surprised her. These two seemed to be old acquaintances. How did we were in this direction, Misto? Asked Naruto. Well, I was in the vicinity doing a routine check, when I overheard a few people talking about how a team from Fairy Tail had arrived to take care of some bandits in the area, Jellal said. I was about to leave and not bother with listening, but then I heard a few people talking about a hot white-haired, though what drew my attention was the girls talking about a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man with whiskers on his face. And I am the only who fits that criteria, the blonde said with a small laugh. Yes. Something else that confused me was that no one said anything about a little girl with the blonde, so I came to see why, the man continued, and to my surprise I find you alone with a woman. So I take it you're finally trying to make Wendy-chan's wish for a mother come true? Naruto blushed slightly at his friend's remark, while Mira Jane turned around to cover the atomic blush that had sprouted on her face. Shut up, Naruto said, so are you going to help? I said I would, Jellal said. Okay then, come on. The blonde said, walking away. He could still hear Jellal chuckling at him. Mira Jane walked behind him, a blush still visible on her face. Mistogen followed behind, chuckling something that was usually out of his character. Later the three were standing in the woods near the camp. Naruto was still in his sage mode and they could get a good look at the group. The bandits were all eating and drinking. Further away there was a large tent pitched up that seemed to be where the mages were in. Naruto turned to his new team. Jellal understood the gesture and pulled off one of his staffs to use his sleep magic. Mira watched the man wave his staff to release a strange purple powder into the air. The bandits, who were all taken by surprise, dropped the things that they were holding before falling to the ground, themselves fast asleep. They're all asleep now, so they won't be a bother for when we begin our fight with the mages, Jellal said, placing the staff back on his back. It won't be long now till they find out that we are here. So Mira Jane, I want you to take on 3 of them. Same goes for you, Mistogen, Naruto said. I will fight the last 4. Now get ready because here they come. Just as Naruto said that, the tent opened up and out walked 2 people, a man and a woman. The 2 glared at the sleeping bandits. They saw the woman go back into the tent for about a minute and came back out with some of the missing mages. In total there were 6 males and 3 females. What the hell happened here? They heard one of them asked. They were put to sleep by magic, one of the women responded. Yes, and it would seem that the pest need to quit hiding in the trees, a man who seemed to be the leader said. On cue, Naruto and his team left their hiding spot and walked out in front of the 10 mages. Well, who would have thought that they would be the ones responsible for this, the leader said as he studied them. Seems like the old bastard in Onibus has been holding back on the money if he was able to hire these 3, a woman said next to the leader. The demon Mira Jane of Fairy Tail along with the mysterious Mistogen. Yes, but they are of little consequence, a big burly man said on the other side of the female. The big one in them would be the blonde, Naruto Uzumaki. Ah yes, the man wanted by many guilds, both legal and dark. Another voice came from behind the enemy lines. Out of the shadows stepped the missing mage, a tall man with red hair and black eyes, a scar going down his left eye. Wait, I know that man, Mistogen said. Crim, the silver mage. I see someone's heard of little old me, the man now identified as Crim said with a large grin. I've also heard of him. He was banished from a guild for destroying and killing members of a rival guild. If I remember correctly, I think it was Titan Nose, Mira Jane said. He along with 15 others were kicked out. I see, Naruto said, knowing that he was bound to be strong. I will fight him. You take on the other two. I want to fight against the blonde, Crim stated. Naruto, Jellal called. I know, don't worry, I can handle him, the blonde told him. Once I'm finished, I'll come and help you out. Naruto separated himself from the group as Crim did the same and moved away from where the fight was about to begin. The man glanced at him for a second before bursting forward at high speed while pulling out a naginata from a pocket dimension. The blonde remained calm as the man thrust the weapon towards his neck. Crim smirked as he saw the blade reach the blonde's neck, though just as it was about to hit, Naruto disappeared in a burst of wind. Next thing the red-haired mage felt was a tremendous amount of pain erupting from his stomach. Crim fell to the ground coughing up blood as he looked up to see Naruto calmly in the same position as they had begun. The renegade mage knew that he had underestimated the blonde. He had heard rumors about him that he was strong and fast, but what he did was just crazy. He stood back up ignoring the pain and a silver spell circle appeared under his feet. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw some strange silver substance cover the man's body from head to toe and even the clothes he wore. Now you going to see why they call me the Silver Mage, Crim said with a large smirk. The now silver man shot forward even faster than before. This time his weapon was forgotten as he slammed his fist into Naruto's chest, sending him into a tree. Mira Jane, who was disposing of another mage, saw this and became alarmed, though the way Mistogen looked away made her frown. Fairy Tail's mages are family and they help each other. She was about to help when she saw Naruto standing back up as if nothing had happened in the first place. That was some punch, Naruto said, and it seems that armor really raises your defense, as well as your speed and strength. Damn right. Why do you think I was the former ace of Titan's Nose? The man sneered. I guess we should finish this fight here and now, said Naruto as he stretched out his hand and in a flash of light a sword appeared. What the hell do you think a puny little sword is going to do against this body made of pure steel? Asked the dark mage with a laugh. More than you think, was the answer as the blonde flashed forward and slashed horizontally, making a deep gash in the man's body. Impossible, were Crim's final words before he fell down. Kusanagi. Nothing can block it unless it is adamantine, Naruto said as he turned to see his team finishing of the rest of the fallen mage's partners. In all, this had turned out for the better. Hell, he even wondered why had been worried in the first place. He could have taken all them out with his shadow clones. It seems that we are done here, Mistogen said, placing his staff where it belonged. Yeah, though I expected more action, but it was still a little fun, Naruto said. Come, let's take them back to the town so the local authorities can take care of the bandits and the Rune Knights can be summoned. The three then began to round up the fallen criminals and place them in a large group in the center. Next they left the area heading back to Onabus. Naruto stayed behind for a moment and pulled out a kunai that he threw into the trees, and then followed the others. A few days later, after Mistogen and Naruto with Mira Jane each left on their own paths, the two could be seen walking towards the guild. The bounty for the dark mages had been quite large that they didn't even ask the mayor of Onabus to pay for an S-class request. Now the two could see the guild up ahead and Naruto was looking forward to see how Wendy had been during his absence. When they got to the door they felt something was off. The inside was far too quiet except for a voice that Naruto didn't recognize. He pushed the door open and saw something that made his blood boil. Wendy was sitting at a table with Charles floating in front of her with her arms stretched out. And the reason for his boiling blood was the fact that some pink-haired brat was basically yelling at her. Mira Jane face-palmed. Why Natsu would be acting like that towards the little blue-haired girl. She could see Levi trying to tell Natsu to leave her alone. Naruto took a step towards them and pointed his hand at the pink head. The woman next to him wondered what he was doing and nearly jumped out of her skin. A thick golden chain shot out of his palm. Natsu was ecstatic. For the first time he had met someone who was like him, another dragon slayer. Finally, maybe he could get some clues as to the whereabouts of his father Ignil. All he had to do was get the girl to tell him what she knew. Meanwhile, his companion Happy was drooling at the sight of the white cat that was acting protectively towards her partner. Just as Natsu was about to ask another question, he felt something wrap around his waist. Looking down, he saw that it had a golden chain of some sort. Next, he felt being lifted into the air. His eyes followed the chain and saw a strange blonde-haired boy standing by the door with Mira Jane, the chain coming out of his palm. Before he could say anything, he began falling at a high speed, making him scream out loud just as he crashed into a table. The others watched in shock that the new guy would just attack Natsu for no reason until they remembered that the pink-haired mage had been bothering the man's daughter. Naruto walked towards Wendy, who now had a smile on her face at the sight of her father. Many of his new allies just moved away. The chain was still attached to Naruto's palm. "Oto-san," Wendy called as she ran up to hug him. It was at this moment that he heard the loud footsteps coming from the stairs. In moments out of the stairway came a red-haired girl around his age. She had brown eyes and wore armor with Heart Crew's Smith's symbol, a blue skirt, and black boots. Instantly an image of his mother appeared next to her. The scarlet-haired girl stared a moment at Naruto before her eyes landed on the golden chain, which in turn was tied around the down Natsu's waist. She then turned her attention to Naruto again and glared. The blonde on the other hand was thinking how pretty the girl was, and as to why she was glaring at him. "Who are you?" she asked as a sword appeared in her right hand. Naruto raised an eyebrow in surprise to meet someone else who used requip magic like his. "Ah, you're back, Naruto," came the voice of Makarov from behind the girl. "Urza, put your weapon away." "But master, he attacked Natsu," the girl known as Urza said. Makarov hummed as he glanced at the down Natsu tied by a golden chain that was coming from his newest mage hand. "Naruto, would you mind releasing Natsu?" "Sorry master, I saw him picking on Wendy-chan and I just overreacted," Naruto apologized. "It's fine, but please don't do it again," master told him. "Master, who is this man?" asked Urza, still glaring at the blonde. "Oh right, you weren't here when he arrived, the old man, this is." However, before the old man could say anything, someone took that opportunity to interrupt him. "Teme!" shouted Natsu as he jumped to his feet and like Urza glared at Naruto. "Why the hell did you attack me?" "You were picking on Wendy-chan," Naruto responded. "I was just trying to get her to tell me about Igneel," the pink head shouted. "I'm afraid that Wendy would not be able to tell you anything as her mother is a dragon by the name of Grandini," Naruto said. "That aside, Natsu," Urza, Makarov called, "I would like you to meet Naruto Uzumaki and his daughter Wendy Marvell Uzumaki, Fairy Tail's newest members." "A pleasure meeting the both of you, Natsu-san, Urza-chan," Naruto greeted, then bit his tongue at the sudden slip-up in the redhead's name. Said redhead blushed slightly at being called Chan, as not many people would call her that. She would be lying if she said that she didn't find the blonde hot, only she wouldn't say it out loud. "Likewise, Naruto-san," Urza said. "Fight me," said Natsu, drawing the attention of many in the guild. "Natsu, are you out of your fucking mind?" called out his number one rival Gray Fullbuster, who was wearing only a pair of boxers. "What do you mean, Gray?" he asked. "Naruto here fought Master prior to joining the guild and the fight ended in a draw, so that means he's at least as strong as Master," Gray called back. Urza's eyes sized up the blonde who had fought her master to a draw. At first he didn't look much stronger than Gray maybe. "That's as not all," Mira said. "On our mission we came upon Crim, the silver mage, who Naruto fought and took him out with a single blow from his sword cutting through his steel skin." "What?" almost everyone screamed. They had all heard of the man said to turn his skin to be nearly impenetrable, and for a sword to be able to cut through that was just crazy. "I challenge you to a fight," Urza said. She was curious as to what the sword was like since she knew that it had to be powerful to cut through pure steel. "No way, I want him first," Natsu said with a large grin on his face. "No to the both of you," Naruto said, turning his back on them. "Then I guess the battle against Master was a fluke along with the defeat of Crim," Urza said. He comment made the blonde stop and turn around to look at her. "Fine, I accept you challenge, but let's put a stipulation," Naruto said. "What kind?" Urza asked. I don't know," the blonde responded. "How about, I win, you have to clean all of my 100 armors for a week," Urza said with a smirk, making people pale as they knew how hard it was to clean those things. "Okay, but if I win," Naruto began, "you have to go on a date with me." Everyone's eyes bugged out, even Makarov's. This guy had balls of steel to ask Urza, the strongest woman in all of Fairy Tail, out. Mira was glaring at Urza, and for once she was hoping for her to win, that way she wouldn't get in her way of getting his attention. Urza blushed harder than ever. This guy had just basically asked her out. Very well, let's go out back. Naruto followed her out to the back of the building along with the rest of the guild. Even Laxus, who was on the second floor, was interested in seeing him fight again. Play Guilty Crown Ost Bios by Mika Kobayashi. Do not own. Both were staring at each other waiting for the signal to begin, which came from Makarov. Tenrin no Yoroi, the woman called out as her body began to glow. The light died down, showing Urza in one of her numerous armors. In her hands was pair of swords, each sporting a gem on its handguard, which is shaped like a pair of wings. Wow, that quite the provocative attire you're wearing, Naruto said as he stretched his hand out, and instantly Kusanagi appeared. Urza was surprised that he could also use requip magic. That little sword will be useless against mine, Urza said confidently. Don't judge a sword by its cover, Naruto said. Tenrin, Sakura and Soto, called Urza as copies of the swords in her hands began to circle around her as she floated in the air. The swords then shot towards Naruto, who tightened the grip on his sword and waited for the right moment to strike. Just as the swords closed in, he raised his sword and spun around on his toes. The effects were instantaneous. The swords that Urza had launched fell to the ground, cut in pieces as if a hot knife cut through butter. What? Urza exclaimed at the sight of her swords. Naruto said nothing as he pointed his empty hand in the airborne girl directions. His eyes were no longer blue, they were purple with rings in them. Basho Tenin, Naruto said. Urza felt a strange pull on her body as she went flying forwards. Naruto had thrown his sword into the air as a strange blue orb began to form in his palm. Urza had no way of dodging and ended up taking the full power of the attack, which of course sent her flying back. Just as she was about to land on the ground, she felt something wrap around her torso. It was the same golden chain that the blonde used against Natsu. Naruto pulled the chain back, sending Urza into the air once again, only to be brought back down. This time she crashed hard into the ground. Just as she was trying to get back up, Urza felt the cold tip on a blade on her neck. I win, Naruto said. End bios. It seems so, Urza managed to say, though her abdomen was in big pain. Wendy, heal her, Naruto said as he walked away. I'll pick you up at 7 tonight for our date in front of the guild, and wear something nice. Okay, Urza said as she felt the pain beginning to fade. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.